back then we did PT in our boots and fatigues. I mean, that's just what you did. You ran your 2 miles in them damn flat ass combat boots. But I remember calling my mom from Fort Benning, telling her where I was at. My mom and I are pretty close. I mean, we talk almost every week still. And I said, hey, Mom, guess where I'm at? She says, where are you at? I'm at Fort Benning. What are you doing at Fort Benning? Where's Fort Benning? I said, Fort Benning, Georgia. Oh, how's Georgia? I said, oh, it's pretty. It's pretty nice, big, tall pine trees. You know, this place is really kind of neat. I ain't never seen no trees like that before. You know, she goes, what are you doing there? I said, I'm in the infantry airborne school. She goes, infantry airborne school? I said, yes, ma'am. Airborne school? What's airborne? I said, they're teaching me how to jump out of planes, Mom. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was silence on the phone. And I said, Mom. Then it hit me. She'd hung up on me, man. My mother hung up on me when I told her I was going to jump out of planes. I was like, oh, this might not be good for the family, man.
Marshall in the middle.
Hey, man. So when did you join the Army?
Oh, June of 1981, man.
Oh, wow. Where are you from?
Ohio. Lima, Ohio.
Where's that at?
You know where actually, you probably know it if you knew where the Army tank plant was, because the Army tank plant's right there in Lima. Everybody pronounces it Lima, but it's really just an acronym, right? So Lima, Lima, stands for Lost in Middle America.
Amen. I love it. Did they do that on purpose, or is that just a lore?
No, that's Randy's lore. You know?
I love
that's
it.
What that shit is. One of those old man euphemisms, if you will.
So, you know, you grew up, you know, in Middle America and in the 70s. When did you graduate high school? 78?
1980, man.
80? That's great. What was life like growing up? You know, do you remember riding the neighborhood in your bicycle and stuff?
Oh, hell yeah, man. We were neighborhood terrorists, all right? Mom kicked us out of the house after we got our homework done and said, don't come back till the lights come on. Well, you know, in the summertime, lights come on at 9 o'clock. If your butt wasn't in the house at 9 o'clock, might as well find another place to sleep. But yeah, man, you know, the old Evel Knievel stuff. We put the bricks and the plank in the middle of the road in front of the house and jump and break arms and legs and scrapes and stuff like that. It's like every other kid back in those days.
Remember the bicycles with the banana seats and the baskets on the front?
Well, I didn't have a basket, but I had the banana seat with the sissy bar so I could get longer distance on the jump.
I love it. Did you like get hurt when you were a kid doing anything, or
yeah.
Remember anything like that? What'd you hurt?
Well, one time we were playing Army, you know, like kids did back then, and I ran across our front porch. It was a brick front porch, and I jumped over the wall on the end, right? And it's about a 5-foot drop to the ground. What I didn't account for was the buried boulder that was about halfway out of the ground. And I landed on it and twisted the ankle up real good. Spent the whole damn summer on crutches, man.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it sucked. Yeah, but you know, normal kid scrapes, man.
What made you join the Army? How did that come around?
Well, you know, so when we first moved to the city there in Lima, it was, I call it a city. It really wasn't that much of a city. You know, back then it was like 75,000 people. But nowadays when I go back, man, it's only like, I don't know, 20,000 people live in that town because all the industry moved out. So when I was growing up, you know, we had the Ford engine plant outside of town. We had the Standard Oil refinery. We had the Clark Equipment Crane Company. We had a whole bunch of stuff going on. The town was big enough. We had 2 malls, believe it or not. And, you know, that's where the kids spent most of their time when we started driving cars, or we'd get mom and dad to drop us off, right? Or we would ride our bicycles to the edge of town and go to the mall. But there wasn't much of I spent a whole year after I graduated high school trying to find a job because, you know, it was that funny period of time where mom and dad make too much money for you to go to school on, you know, Pell Grants and stuff like that. And your grades were just barely under the cusp of getting scholarship money from the school. So, you know, you got to find something to do, man. I got into I'm not going to say trouble, but I became mischievous, if you will. And I started running with the mischievous crowd, and we started getting ourselves really on the brink of trouble, right? So bored kids, what do? Well, we soaked tennis balls in gasoline for a day. And then at night, there was an alleyway on each that went across the street. And the street had cars that went up on a fairly regular basis. So our thing is we would take those tennis balls and we'd light them and we'd throw them across and bounce them off the windshields of the cars as they were going down the street. That was all well and fine. You know, you hear brakes screech and stuff. Nobody ever really got hurt. Nobody ever got hurt. Let's put it like that. But then one night I didn't check the car silhouette well enough. And as soon as the tennis ball hit the windshield, the bubblegum lights came on. Whoa! That's when I first found out how quick I could run. Luckily, escaped that one unscathed, and I decided, I got to get out of this town, man. Just got to do something. So went down. My best friend, who I'm getting ready to go out to Seattle to see, he joined the Navy, and I was going to go in with him. But then, something happened and I couldn't make this the same time he went. And I said, why do I want to be on a boat, man? That just don't even sound like fun. Nothing but dudes? Hell no, man. Right? So I just said, my kind of luck, I'd end up in a damn submarine under the polar ice cap for 6 months going, holy stuffing, man. I can't deal with this shit. So I joined the Army. Left the hometown. You know how I don't know how it was when you joined. It probably wasn't much different. But my recruiter, man, Sergeant First Class Fred Chrisman, he set me down and he says, look at here, man. You getting ready to go to MEPS? Yep. You ain't coming back when you go to MEPS. Yeah, I got that. He says, so you're going to leave MEPS and you're going to El Paso, Texas to go to school. Basic training. I said, okay, no problem. Got it. He says, don't you admit to nothing down there at MEPS. Don't you tell him anything about smoking no pot. I said, well, I told you I didn't smoke no pot. Don't tell me anything about drinking alcohol. I said, I ain't old enough to drink no damn alcohol. I'm only 19 now, man. Come on, brother. And he's like, yeah. Just remember that stuff, right? So you go down there, man. And then I think Joe said it best, Joe Stout. He says, it's like the third degree, man. You get down to MEPS and then they put you in a room and here comes the damn searchlights and the LEDs and they're just trying to blind you and shit. And you're like, whoa, what the hell, man? And you're thinking, what'd I sign up for? Right. So, yeah, man. But hey, I didn't cave. I said, yeah, what are you going to do? Beat me, man? Come on, let's go. You can't prove it anyway. Did my piss test come back hot? No, thank you. Bye. I found myself taking that first plane ride to El Paso, Texas, man. Damn, that was a hot place.
What month did you get there?
Well, I got there in June. Peak summer months in El Paso, Texas, right? So you get off the plane in sunny El Paso, Texas in the middle of the night. It wasn't real sunny then, and you're met by some drill sergeants. That was the first time I met any female drill sergeants. And we had 2 female drill sergeants at the reception station at Fort Bliss. And man, I don't know if it was just my imagination or if they were picking on me extra hard because of my long red hair and all that stuff. But man, they put me out there in that sun and I blistered up the first day, man, after they cut my hair. Holy smokes, my ears were falling off, my nose was falling off. And then one drill sergeant looked at the other and said, you can't put him out in the sun tomorrow. And the first one said, damn if I can, I'm going to keep watching on my sweetheart. And I'm like, oh, geez, red hair, burnt like a crisp because, I got fair skin any damn way. And all I'm going to do is get some more harassment. So, yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. It was an experience.
It's got to be tough to be so good looking,
Oh, good looking my ass, man.
Got to be tough. So, what made you join and become you were a Vulcan mechanic back then? Was that your original MOS? Was it 24 Mike? Was that it?
Well, when I signed up with the understanding that I was going to be 24 Mike. But before I could do that, I had to graduate in the top 10% of the 16 Romeo class. If I didn't graduate for our top 10%, they were going to stick me in as a Vulcan crewman. Anyway, I wouldn't have had a problem with that anyway, man. But so all that bought me was another. Let's see. Started in June of '81. Graduated OSA September of '81, And then I moved down to main post to go to the 24 mic course. And then the FAR radar course, the X-ray 7 course too. So yeah, whatever. So,
well, you know, back then those were highly sought after skill sets, right? You're working on, you know, state of the art radar systems, or, you know, at least
yeah.
something that was in the inventory. Did that excite you? Did you like the thought of the electronics and all that stuff? You're obviously a very smart guy, you know.
Well, before I joined the Army, I'd been accepted to the Bell and Howell Institute of Technology in Ohio, in Columbus. I was going to go to school and get electronics engineering degree. And again, that didn't pan out. So I was like, yeah, whatever, man, I'll do this. And you know, my initial thought was I'm going to join and get the college money. Well, you know, back in those days, there wasn't no GI Bill, man. That had run out. Then they were trying to figure out what to do for education. And it turns out they did this Veterans Education Assistance Program, otherwise known as VEAP. Well, you know, so I signed up for it like all the other young troopies. And then you start doing some research on it and you find out that the monies they were going to pay for your school was really limited based on your MOS. So the Army saw it like this back then. They said, well, we gave you an electronics degree, basically. We've taught you electronics. We've taught you missile electronics. Okay, so what am I going to use missile electronics for in the real civilian world? You know, not many people have an idea of missile electronics. So, you know, but the monies weren't going to be there. So I just cashed my VEAP out and spent it on a new car, you know, normal shit for a young trooper. Heck yeah. But yeah, so the funny part about basic training, you're going to laugh at this one, man. I know a lot of people will, because I don't think they understood this. So they marched us up on the hill. The drill sergeants that we were going to be with for the next 8 weeks marched us up from the reception station up on the hill. It was called duffel bag drag. We were one of the last people to do that because 2 classes behind us, a kid dropped dead of heat stroke. It was only like a 1.5 mile walk, but you got your duffel bag on your back with all your initial issue gear. You've got your civilian bag that the recruiter told you to pack these things and take them with you that you never even used or saw again, because as soon as you got there, they took that shit away from you and locked it up. And then they marched you down, gave you a casual pay, marched you down to the PX and a list of stuff to buy that was already in your bag that you brought with you, right? Nope. I'm like, called it the Flying 70 back then because they gave us $70 casual pay out of the first paycheck. Told us to buy this stuff and that stuff. But anyway, so I get up on the hill that day and we're doing the shakedown. And I dumped my duffel bag out, just like everybody else, holding stuff up, packing it. We got it all done, and I got my rucksack or my duffel bag on my back, and we had to hold our civilian bag up at arm's length, at shoulder height, at arm's length. Well, you know, it's just a test to see who's going to drop the crap first. Well, I held mine for quite a while, man. My shoulder just started burning. It gave out. It just gave out. Well, the drill sergeant stepped in and caught me in the nose with his round brown right across there and creased it. I mean, there was blood. And I bent down to pick up my bag. When I came back up, his campaign hat tripped off his head. I tell you what, man, I don't know how many trainees were on that quad, but in about 0.0 seconds, there was just me and 6 drill sergeants. Everybody else was chased in the barracks. And I was, whoa, boy, I was took to school because they took that as an aggressive thing. I didn't try to knock it off his head. If I'd have tried to knock it off his head, I'd have swung an arm. But, and that drill sergeant's name was Drill Sergeant Gary Boyce. I don't know if he was still in the battalion when you got there. Right?
I've heard the name before. Name before.
Gary was he was a staff sergeant, Vietnam vet. Dude could play the guitar and sing, man. He did that for us many times on those nights when we were being good trainees. He'd sit in his drill sergeant office there in the barracks, and he'd play his guitar and sing some songs while we were cleaning our barracks and all that stuff, right? Then he'd leave for the night. But yeah, Gary, Drill Sergeant Boyce, he was my platoon sergeant. And then there was this guy walking around, man. Back then we had the old green fatigues, right? The ones with the gig line, the old Gomer Pyle looking things. And there was this guy walking around, man, had his campaign hat cocked down like this, always had an unlit stogie sticking out of his face. And he walked and didn't break starch, man. This guy was strapped to the core. And I'd watch him every day. I go, I want to be like that dude, man. And you'll pick up who he was here in about 2 seconds, right? Because every time he talked to the trainees, his favorite phrase was, God dog it, listen here, people. And I don't know if I'm doing him right, but that was Drill Sergeant Velton Locklear. And I'm like, holy shit, man. But he'd walk around that quad and he commanded that quad. And you're like, these are all staff sergeants, man. These are high-ranking people to the new privates, right? Ooh, right? So, I mean, some of the things we did back then would be considered not good things now, you know? Yeah. So go through basic training, get all that stuff done, spent the time out in the desert, rifle marshalship, you know, the usual stuff, eating our C rations every day. Yeah, those are some fun meals.
So tell me the difference between C-rats and MREs. You watched the whole iteration if you ate C-rats then, because I've never eaten C-rats.
Okay, so think of C rations as Del Monte canned fruit, right? So you actually had canned fruit that was like, you go to the store, you buy pear halves in a can. It's exactly what it was. You buy tuna. Well, we had tuna in a can. Now, we had affectionate names for all these things. I'm not going to go into those because, yeah, that's just not right, okay? So we had some of the meals we had tuna. We had beans and franks. We had potato stroganoff, all that in the can. Then you had the John Wayne bars, which equated to, they were probably, I'm going to say about a 1/4 inch thick. There was 2 of them in a can with your crackers. And you had the little round crackers. And we called them John Wayne bars because they were like almost like crisp, you know, Nestle crisp, the Nestle bars with the rice in it. That was kind of what those were. And then you had little thin cans of peanut butter and jams and cheese that equated to about melted Velveeta that had that same consistency all the time, unless it froze, and then it was kind of like spreadable. But yeah, that's what those were. But you know, when you equate that to the soldier's load, one meal weighed about 2 pounds, I'm going to say. So if you've got to go to the field for a week and you eat 2 of those meals a day, that's a considerable amount of weight. And then that cans clang together. So you got to figure out how to keep them from clanging together, right? So those usually ended up in your socks, your extra socks. You know, you just feed the cans down in those socks and it would muffle the noise enough. But yeah, and then we went from that, before the MREs came in, I mean, we were on C rations all the time. That's why you always had the can opener on your dog tag chain, because and that dag thing would open up no matter what, man. During airborne operations, that thing would open up and that blade would stick you right in the center of the chest. And you go, oh, damn it, man. Right. But there was 2 openers. There was a P38 and a P48. I don't know if you know that. The P48 was actually made for the cold weather, so you didn't have to take your gloves off to use it. And it was just an enlarged one. We used those up in Brimfrost 1983 when I was up in Brimfrost 83 back then. But yeah, man. And then there was another meal that we get every once in a while between C's. They called it a Lures D. And it was a single bunch of freeze-dried stuff in a bag that if you opened it up, the bag got about that tall. And you poured water in it. There was no heater for them back then like there is with the MREs. And you'd roll that thing down, and you'd put a rubber band or something around it and clamp it shut, and then you put your ruck on, put it underneath your armpit, and you go walking. Warm that damn thing up as much as you could so it was at least palatable. But yeah, man, or you just eat it. The thing you didn't really want to do was eat it dry, because then when you're thirsty and you drink a lot of water, that swells up in your gut, man. And yeah, it just wasn't a good feeling.
You alluded to being part of the Army that, you know, wouldn't kind of be accepted today. There were a lot of things back then that, you know, you look back on it, it's like, ooh, you know, there were definitely hazing things. We would definitely, treat people different somehow, right or wrong. I don't know. But did you ever have an incident that you can talk about or you'd like to talk about? Did you get hazed? I tell the story about when I got thrown out of the second floor at in Fort McCoy.
Oh, well, in reception station in the 82nd, right? So the old division areas where repo was when I came through. And you go out drinking with some folks while you're waiting to go to your unit. And next thing you know, man, you're waking up taped inside your sleeping bag, hanging from the fire escape upside down. And it's like, oh shit. You wake up, you're drunk off your ass, and you're like, oh man, this isn't gonna end well, right? And you don't unzip your sleeping bag, what's gonna happen? You're gonna flip out and fall the other story and a half to the ground, man. Yeah. Or the other one they like to do a lot back then was they'd stick you in remember the old thin wall lockers, the old metal ones, real thin ones? They'd stuff a Joe in there and toss him down the stairs in his wall locker. Hey, that was part of growing up back then, man. And it's just like, you think about that shit now, holy damn, we'd all be in Leavenworth, man. I mean, because it happened at some level or another the whole time we were in the Army. I mean, it was practice. I guess I have to go back and claim PTSD now for all the trash and shit we went through, man. I just don't get it. Well, I don't. I mean, stop and think about it, man. Some of the ceremonies we did when somebody got senior wings or master wings, we'd all be in deep shit right now for that stuff.
It's interesting to think about, blood wings and prop blast and cherry parties, and the only thing that kept us from our own selves, we kind of throttled ourselves, but I was in the second floor latrine when the guy willingly got in the wall locker and they picked him up and they threw it out the window. I was there, and it was just like, well, yeah, he's okay,
Wall locker's a little beat up, but he seems to be all right.
It was weird for me. Again, I was like a PFC or something at the time, and it was happening over in Charlie Battery's area on the second floor, and I was in Bravo, for some reason the door between the day room was open. Remember, very few times did we open it, but it was open somehow at this day. And so I went over there, and because everybody was shouting and screaming, there's about 25 people over there in the latrine, and a guy, he has a helmet on, he's got wet weather boots, and a yellow PT shorts. Remember those yellow PT shorts? And no shirt. And he climbs into the wall locker, and they told him that was part of what he had to do. He had to ride the wall locker down, and it was part of his initiation, and he was ready to go, Well, yeah, because, think about it, man. If he'd have said, no, hell no, what were they going to do? They were going to stuff him in there any damn way, toss him out the window, and then it's like, then they're going to talk trash. He's not accepted as part of the brotherhood at that point, right? So he's maybe going to do another 8-10 months, maybe a year with the group. And they're going to chapter him out or ship him someplace else because he's not going to be worthy. Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. I didn't really consider it hazing. I considered it rites of passage. Whether that's right or wrong, I really don't care. Okay, it happened. It's done. It's over. I didn't die from it. Okay, cool. Matter of fact, nobody I know of died from that stuff. It was very effective at building the team. And when I was a black hat, we did TURD training, trainee under rigorous development. Basically, they treated us, called us everything they could, but in the guise of exposing you to everything possible, so that when you're on the platform for real, there's no hiccups, there's no issues,
Right.
And it worked. It worked real good. I'm glad of it. Tell me about Private Osterhout. Were you a good private?
Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, I did what I was told to do. After the incident in basic training where they thought I aggressively attacked that drill sergeant, which I didn't do, I ended up going to the other drill sergeant's house every night. It was called Drill Sergeant Emery's house. Drill Sergeant Emery was the guy who did all of our NBC training. Drill Sergeant Emery's house was a little cement walled building, no windows, one door, and a cement floor on the inside. And they'd take me out there in the truck after chow every night, give me a broom. That's what they did with all the trainees that misbehaved. And I had a 2-week sentence. And I had to carry out my sentence for 2 weeks. So every night after chow, they'd put me in the pick-em-up truck in the back with the cap on it, right? No seats in it. And they drive across the desert, bouncing me around and shit, you know. It's sort of like police get in trouble for giving people rough rides, right? I wasn't even in prison, man. And they give me a broom when I got out at the other end and open up this door and tell me to go in there and sweep the floor. Okay, sweep all the dust out of there. Okay, I didn't know what it was at the time. We hadn't had gas CS training yet. So I get in this chamber the first night, man, and I start sweeping like my life depended on it. And about, I don't even know, man, 20 seconds later, I start coughing and snotting up and tears. And I was like, coughing up lungs. And they opened the door and drugged me out. I was only in there for, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And they threw me back in the truck, took me back to the barracks, and I got to do my barracks stuff at night. I was like, damn. Or the other thing they like to do to the trainees back then is between the buildings there on Logan Heights. Back in my day, right, there was water spigots on the outside of those buildings. Well, between two of the buildings were sandbags stacked, and there was 2 entry lanes at one end. And it was nothing but dirt and rock in there. And we come back from chow and, you know, they'd be giving us some DNC training or how to put your web gear together training or whatever. And the holdovers that were there, right, that they were like not God, but next to God because the drill sergeants were God, would run over there and they'd turn the spigots on and let the water run. Well, that'd go on for about 40 minutes. And now you got mud and some running water and some stuff in there. And they take us to the swimming pool and let us go swimming. And we'd swim down, man. They'd blow the whistle. You have to flip over and do backstrokes. And then you'd have to flip back over and do the free stroke. And then they wanted you to do butterflies. And you're like, what the hell, man? And you're tearing up your fatigues because that's just tearing them in holes, right? So like the first night we did that, they let us get out of the pool and told us, go get cleaned up. So we all make a beeline for the barracks. Don't you go in my barracks. No, okay, so what am I supposed to do? So Private Osterhout says, hey, there's water spigots on the outside of the building. Okay, cool. So I run over to the water spigot alongside the building. I turn that joker on and I start, trying to get the dirt off of me. Well, it's not, you can't get it all off of you. So I took off my shirt and I rinsed it. I put it off to the side, took off my boots, rinsed those off, took off my pants, did that. And a car goes by and I'm standing there in my drawers, right? Soaking wet, mud all over the place. And this car goes by and it stops and backs up. And all of a sudden the drill sergeant's going ballistic. What the hell are you doing? There was like 8 of us out there by that time. And turns out that the brigade commander's wife and young daughter were driving past. And well, after that, we were allowed to go in the barracks to hose off.
Yeah, the swimming pool operations probably ceased after that for a little
while. Oh, no,
they
intensified. They intensified. Amen. But yeah, there was that, man. And basic training was pretty much, everybody made it sound so damn hard. To me, it wasn't really that hard, I guess. Maybe I had already gone into the mind meld of saying, well, I got to get through this stuff. I might as well do it the way they tell me to do it. So
then I enjoyed basic training. I think most folks looking back on it say it's, easier than what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, because you watch them stupid shows like, I don't know, Full Metal Jacket came out long after I had joined, but whatever. You just always had this vision in your mind, right, about how hard and how rough it was, but it really wasn't that bad. Private Osterhout. Then I get to Fort Bragg. Well, actually, my first set of orders said Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I'm like, I don't want to go back that close to home, man. I joined the Army to see things. So there was some people going through warrant school for Vulcan, for shore air defense warrant officers. And there was one guy there said, "Hey man, where you going?" I said, "Fort Campbell." He said, "They got no need for you at Fort Campbell. That's where I'm coming from. You need to go to the 82nd." Dude wasn't even airborne yet. He had not been to jump school yet, but he was going back to the 82nd and he knew he was. So he was trying to get 24 mics to go to the 82nd. So I said, "Well, what do I got to do?" Right? He said, "You got to go over and tell the PAC people that you don't want to go to Campbell. Tell them you want to go to Bragg." Okay. So next day I go over to the PAC, and PAC was run by civilians back then. And I walked in and told the lady, I said, "I don't want to go to Campbell." She says, "Son, these are your orders." And I said, "I don't want to go to Campbell. I want to go to Fort Bragg." Her eyes got about that big around. She goes, "Fort Bragg." I said, "Yes, ma'am, 82nd Airborne Division. I want to go to the 82nd Airborne Division." "Okay, you know what that means, right?" "Yeah, it means I jump out of planes." She goes, "Yeah. 82nd Airborne Division." "Yeah. Fort Bragg, North Carolina." "Yes, ma'am." "Okay, I'm going to ask you again. Are you sure?" She asked me that question 3 times, Will. And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm sure." She said, "Okay, wait right there." She went over to her typewriter and she typed up some damn orders that said so much of orders number, ... This person is now on indefinite hold until we can get him scheduled for airborne school. And I went back and gave it to my platoon sergeant. He says, "No." He went like this, right? We weren't with him all day, right? He'd march us over to school and then he'd go back and sit in the barrack or whatever. And we were in school all damn day. But then he said, "Man, you don't know what you're doing." I said, "Well, that sounds like fun to me." So the next thing I know is that they're sending me down to the troop clinic to get a class 1 flight physical. They're going, "Why in the hell do I need a class 1 flight physical? I'm not flying the plane. I'm just jumping out of it." And the lady said, "Well, that's what we do when people say they're going airborne school." Okay. Dude, man, I didn't want to be a pilot after that physical. But finally got cleared, and I got married somewhere in the process. My young wife was with me, so I got TDY en route to Fort Bragg, and I got to travel in my own car, drive from El Paso to Fort Benning. I get to Fort Benning, and we were switching over to the BDUs at the time. So I couldn't find any BDUs because it's like every new uniform, man. They don't have enough. You can't buy them. I'm an E2, man. I ain't got no damn money for no uniforms, especially not like that. I mean, my fatigues cost $8 a top, $8 a bottom, right, for the trousers. And then BDUs were costing like $35 for the top and $34 for the pants. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. So anyway, I went through jump school. Back then, we did PT in our boots and fatigues. I mean, that's just what you did. You ran your 2 miles in them damn flat ass combat boots. But I remember calling my mom from Fort Benning, telling her where I was at. My mom and I are pretty close. I mean, we talk almost every week still. And I said, "Hey, Mom, guess where I'm at?" She says, "Where are you at?" "I'm at Fort Benning." "What are you doing at Fort Benning? Where's Fort Benning?" I said, "Fort Benning, Georgia." "Oh, how's Georgia?" I said, "Oh, it's pretty. It's pretty nice, big, tall pine trees. This place is really kind of neat. I ain't never seen no trees like that before." She goes, "What are you doing there?" I said, I'm in the infantry airborne school." She goes, "Infantry airborne school?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." "Airborne school? What's airborne?" I said, "They're teaching me how to jump out of planes, Mom." Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was silence on the phone. And I said, Mom. Then it hit me. She'd hung up on me, man. My mother hung up on me when I told her I was going to jump out of planes. I was like, "Oh, this might not be good for the family, man." She finally warmed up to it, man. Then she became so damn proud that her son was a paratrooper that she just couldn't, stand still around people. She's like, "Oh yeah, your son's in the Marines? My son's a paratrooper." And I'd be like, "Mom, don't do that. Don't do that."
So tell me about your first jump or your jump school. Where was it easy, hard? Tell me about it.
Oh, the first jump everything was fine. I went through jump school. We did the towers. We did the 250 tower. I thought that was great fun, man. Come to the first jump. The thing that scared me about the first jump was my first jump was from a C-123 provider. Do you even know what that is? So the doors don't slide up in the channels in those things. They take them off. And then the guys, when they get ready to start the airplane, because it's not running when you walked up to it, they loaded us in it. And then they had these guys come out in those aluminum suits with these big ass fire extinguishers, and they're standing under the motor. And from where I was sitting for my first jump, I was watching them, you know, because I could see out the door. And this guy's standing there, man, and all of a sudden that motor fired. He disappeared in a fireball of flame and smoke, dark black smoke, and he was gone. I was like, did he just get burnt up? And then, you know, everything cleared off, and he's still standing there with his fire hose, you know, just waiting to put out a fire if it fires up. First jump was fine, man. We got out there. You know, the Jumpmaster stood us up, went out the door. Absolutely wonderful. Second jump was a little different because then I knew what to expect, but I didn't hesitate a minute, man. As soon as that Jumpmaster said go, man, my ass was out the door because I saw what he did to the guy in front of me that didn't go. Boot in the middle of the pack tray and out the door he went any damn way. So you might as well do it on your own accord, man. But of course, in jump school, you know, the black hats, they wore the old BA-18 parachute. They weren't going out the door with you. You know, and then you get out the door, you check your canopy, and you hear everybody down on the ground, all the black hats with their damn megaphones. Feet and knees together, airborne, turn into the wind, airborne. You're like, oh, damn, man, do you guys ever shut up? But no, man, I enjoyed jump school. Got through the 5 jumps, no issue. I remember us hiding guys that had twisted ankles and stuff. We'd hide them in the formation runs because, you know, every morning you did PT with the black hats, right? But you also, on jump week, when you were doing PT with them, they have 4 or 5 extra black hats run alongside the formation, looking in at feet and ankles to see if there was a limp. And man, we'd all get out of step. We'd mess with them, you know, just so that we could hide the guy who was just, yeah, it hurts a little bit, man, but it's wrapped tight. And we just wanted him to get through with us, you know? So yeah, that was jump school. I get to brag, man, my cherry blasted brag. Wow. So we were in Charlie, 9349 by that time, right? And I was in Bravo Battery, Bravo Bulls, and had a platoon sergeant that he wouldn't even try to call my last name, man. My first name was Mother, my last name was, okay. So that's what he called me every damn day. And I kept telling him my name's Osterhout or O, or just say Private O. I don't care if Sergeant, just don't call me motherfucker. He kept calling me motherfucker. Okay. So I'm a little smart ass. I go down to Ranger Joe's and I get name tapes made up. And I put double-sided carpet tape on them. The next morning in formation, man, Mother on my uniform, standing in formation, man. And yeah. We had in-ranks inspection every morning, right? Back then, in-ranks every day. Your boots had to be highly shined, man. Your uniform had to be starched and pressed. You had to look the part of America's Guard of Honor. And he walked through, didn't say a word when he looked at the name tapes. Got through the whole platoon. He said, everybody but Private O and his squad leader stand fast, or go ahead and take off. You two stand fast. I knew what was coming, man. I pushed up till Panama came north. And he said, don't you ever do stuff like that again. I said, well, it got you to call me Private O. And I took him off my chest, but of course. But yeah, that was the one bonehead thing that I did really big time. But then they took me over to the shopette right there because there was that little shopette. They said, grab your checkbook. Come on, you're getting your cherry blast tonight. Let's go. So two or three of the E4s in my platoon took me over there, headquarters platoon. Took me over there and walked me back to the beer cooler. Made me hold my arms out. They put 3 cases of beer on my arms and 4 bags of ice. Made me walk up front and pay for it. And then they took me back over to the barracks and showed me how to rig my rucksack. Rigging my rucksack was fairly simple. They opened it up, threw everything out. Took my wet weather bag, put in a layer of ice, half a case of beer, another layer of ice, some more beer, and went through until all the beer and all the ice was in that rucksack. You know how heavy that is? It's a hell of a lot more than 35 pounds. I can tell you that much. So go through rigging and everything. That wet weather bag did not leak. That's probably the only wet weather bag I ever had in my career that didn't leak. And went through the jump, went through pre-jump, went through the jump. It was like, I got there in February of 82. So it still wasn't quite real warm yet, you know, but it was still kind of warm. I went out, did my cherry blast, got out of the aircraft, did everything I was supposed to do, hit the ground. Man, I was the most popular kid on the drop zone that night, man, because every one of those bastards that packed that shit told everybody else. Man, they all came up. My rucksack weighed 0 by the time we got to the assembly area. They were all smelling like alcohol. The first time we walked up, and the first sergeant standing there. Who the hell was the first sergeant? No, Hilton came later. And I don't know. Anyway, he was standing. What the hell took you people so long to get here, right? He says, I smell beer. One of the guys that was with me pulled a beer out of his cargo pocket and handed it to him and says, Todd, here you go. He said, oh, cherry blast. Okay, get the hell over there and get on the 80 pack. Let's go home. I was like, what is this, man? But yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. That was the best unit. I'm gonna tell you, that was the best unit morale-wise and camaraderie-wise I've ever been in, that I ever was in my whole military career. And I wasn't one of those guys that PCS'd every 3 years, man. So I'm gonna tell you, I don't count my move from El Paso to Fort Bragg as a PCS move. I count that as my initial move to a first permanent party. From there, I PCS twice in 20 years of military service. So I PCS from Bragg to Cadet Command, and I taught military science at Colorado School of Mines in Golden, Colorado. And then from there, I PCS to Germany to be in a Patriot unit, which that just befuddled me all to hell and back, man. You know, SHORAD guy, Patriot unit. What the hell is this thing, man? But yeah, it was what it was. But yeah. Yeah, man.
So you went from E2 to E7 in one platoon, in one battery, right?
Yeah, well, E6 promotable, yeah.
Okay, E6 promotable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went from being in the maintenance platoon, right? So I did, holy crap. So I was a maintainer, and then I moved to be squad leader when I'm 85. And then I went from being a squad leader, then I became the platoon sergeant for headquarters platoon in Bravo Battery before they moved me out to Charlie Battery. And that was, yeah, man. So I was at Bragg for maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years. So I progressed pretty quickly, right? So I went from, within 4 years of being in the Army, I was a staff sergeant. And I was like, whoa, man, this is moving kind of quick. But it was because of what my leaders saw in me, right? So, I mean, I always questioned their thought process of how they rated me because I never thought I was that good. All right. So I'm kind of a humble guy. I don't sell myself real well, but they all thought so highly of me because of my ability to keep Vulcans goddamn running, man. I think that's all it was. Because after working on them for a couple of years, I pretty much knew everything that there was to know. I mean, I maxed my first SQT test for 24 Mike, and none of the questions in the damn test had anything to do with the towed Vulcan. They were all SP, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But that stuff had stuck in my head, you know, like one of the basic questions on that one: how many elements in a linkless feed system? Well, damn, man, that's 119. There's 123 screws torqued at 5 inch-pounds of pressure. You can operate that thing with 118 elements, but no more, no less than that, because then your belt's too tight. And you're like, how the hell do I remember that? Where'd that come from, right? Muzzle clamp is torqued to 650 inch-pounds. God damn it, make sure you torque that thing down. We don't want to fire one downrange. But inevitably, every damn range, somebody would fire one downrange. Yeah, you remember those days?
I do. I'll tell you, I never saw a muzzle clamp going down range on any range that I was on, probably because you were there at every one of those ranges.
The one range at Fort Bliss, I didn't go behind the gunners and check it. Bad Luck Schleprock fired one downrange.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember who that was?
Uh-uh.
So this guy was a great guy, man. Don't get me wrong. But I nicknamed him Bad Luck Schleprock because we would have those guns set and ready to go through DRF1 assumption, and they would pass DRB or the inspection every damn time, man, except his gun. We get down to the LAC area where we're getting inspected, his gun would have a problem. His gun would fail. And I just told him one time, I said, man, leave that damn thing alone, right? That was Graziano. Sergeant Graziano, man. Great guy. I mean, he was awesome. He tried so hard, but it didn't matter what it was, man. If that gun had an A1 after we went to PIVADS and rolled into the damn LAC area, by the time his gunner stopped that vehicle, that shit was deadline. It was 0. And you're like, what the hell did you do, man? It was just his luck. But yeah, but he was that was the only gun I ever had fire one downrange, because that day I decided to let the gunners do their job. And I never checked them on that one. And you know, there could have been a whole bunch of things going on that he just didn't check it, or his gunner said, yeah, I checked it, sorry, and it didn't get checked. You know, sometimes you just trust people. But yeah, he fired like the first 30 round burst, and that thing, I heard a noise and I said, son of a, and I yelled at one of my maintainers in the Gamma Goat. I said, get a muzzle clamp, man. Take it out to gun number 3. Because just from the sound, I knew exactly which gun on the line had fired that shit downrange.
Oh, so tell me about, you know, becoming a sergeant. You talked about you made sergeant, you know, got promoted to squad leader. You know, tell me about becoming responsible for other soldiers. I always thought you were an amazing leader. You definitely were one of the guys that inspired me. Tell me about that for you.
Well, for me, it was it was really weird, because I got there was all these E4s in the platoon. I made E5. They were all still E4s. I mean, the Danny Martinez's, oh man, Danny, I remember, because Danny was the most functioning drunk I ever met in my damn life. I mean, this cat. And then there was Zebedee Artis. He was one of our vehicle mechanics, right? And these guys were all, Zebedee was a PFC when I made specialist. And then Martinez was a Spec 4 when I got there, and he was still a Spec 4 when I made staff sergeant. I tried to send him to the board. He wouldn't go. He would not go. And I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, maintainers, Vulcan or 24 Max usually transitioned to soft stripe to E5. So everybody else in the battalion that had made E5 as a 24 mic, and there weren't many of us, man. We were a division short of General S. And that's why we never went any damn where, as long as we were willing to stay airborne. But they transitioned you to soft stripe, so you became a specialist 5th class. So I was an E4, and my squad leader was a guy named Staff Sergeant.
Your audio went away. Something happened.
You still there? Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh, come on, man. How about now?
Yeah, there it goes.
Okay. But anyway, so Staff Sergeant Lloyd was my squad leader at the time. Staff Sergeant Lloyd was a vegetarian. But anyway, so he came to me one day and he pulled me off the side and said, hey, you know, you're the guy I lean on to fix these guns, but we're getting ready to get a new guy in. And he's a Spec 5, so he's going to be your boss. And I said, okay, whatever. So I get this guy in. His name was Roberts, a soft stripe specialist 5th class. I was already getting ready to go to the E5 board. And anyway, Rob came in, and he didn't impress me much with his skill set. But, you know, he was the sergeant in my eyes. He was my leader, so I did what he told me to do. You know, that's what good soldiers do. And when he gave me the wrong information, I questioned it, because it usually dealt with fixing a gun or something, right? And I knew how to fix it, but he'd always tell me something different. And I just, okay, so, and as soon as he'd walk away, or okay, specialist, as soon as he'd walk away, I'd do it my way and fix the gun. He never caught on to that. I don't know why, but after a while, he just stopped correcting me. And then he sent me to the E5 board, and I got promoted. When I got promoted, They didn't promote me to soft stripe. They promoted me hard stripe sergeant. Everybody else still got promoted to soft stripe, and I didn't understand that. And I asked Sergeant Lloyd about it. I said, why did I get hard stripe and everybody else got soft stripe? Sergeant Major says, you're a better leader than all the soft stripers. You're going to be a sergeant. The squad is yours. I said, Rob outranks me by data rank. He said, it don't matter. You outrank him by position. Okay. So no problem, right? So Rob worked for me for probably 6 months. And I said, you're going to the E6 board, man. I'm tired of your little bullshit. You're going to the E6 board. And that's all there is to it. Same to the E6 board. Dude gets promotable, heads off, and I just reenlisted for the 4-5 college option to get some college time, right? Under Captain Shepard back then. Now, I know that now because he reached out to me on Facebook about a week ago and said, hey, how are you doing? Who the hell are you? Well, Chris Shepard, really? But yeah, man. So send him on, and I start school. He goes on leave. That staff sergeant, or E5 promotable, goes on leave. Goes back to Houston. Next thing I know, Captain Shepard's calling me and saying I need to report to the unit the next day instead of going to school. So, well, this is my reenlistment contract, sir. He says, yeah, but needs of the Army are more than your contract, and that can be voided at any time. You should have read the fine print. You need to come back to work. So I get back to work, find out that my newly promotable, soon-to-be boss got busted for cocaine possession in Houston.
Oh, no.
I was pissed, man. So whatever. So I went back to work. They promoted me to staff sergeant. I just drove on from there, man.
Never made it to school.
Never made it back to school. Not while I was on active duty, man. I just, back then we didn't have the things that these guys have now, man. You couldn't do it online. You had to sit your butt in a classroom. Distance learning was not a thing. Hell, internet wasn't a thing.
You remember all the correspondence courses and all this stupid stuff we had to, you mean that, like, your MOS, not so much, but I spent 6 years as an E5 promotable. 6 years I was an E5.
Yeah. I remember those. I remember those days for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, it's like, we all cheated on the dang correspondence courses as much as we could. It was like, oh, wait, come on.
Yeah. I know, man. I remember those days because, but for everybody else, but for me, right? So at the times I was coming eligible for promotion. So my cutoff score for E5 was 450 points. I think back in those days, the max, it wasn't 999, it was like 699 that nobody could ever attain, right? So it was like set. So my cutoff score was 450. Well, going from E4 to E5, they gave you airborne points of 100 points. Before I went to the board, I had 375 promotion points. I didn't need to go to the board, man. The only reason I had to go to the board was get recommended to be placed on the damn list. So, I got on the list, and 90 days later, bam, you're a sergeant. When I went for E6, my cutoff score was 550, and they took 50 points off for being airborne. So I had to get 500 points. Yeah, well, I did my board. I asked the board. Yeah. It was just, it was weird things I remember, but it was like, yeah. Oh, the other thing that happened on my cherry blast, though, was my cherry blast or the next one. Must have been the next one. Because when I got there, man, we had a lot of deaths right off the bat. I mean, Death Drop 82 at Fort Irwin. All those guys got beat up in the high winds, smashing rocks and shit like that. Clemens and McHugh died out there on Sicily. That was a scrapped up night. Yeah, man. I know the guy I went through basic AIT and jump school with quit after that jump. He wouldn't go out and jump no more, man. He quit. Wow. And it just affects people differently, right? I guess I looked at it and said, it could happen to me at any time. It's just, if I live, I live. If I don't, it's not meant to be. Yeah, that's just the way I looked at it. But yeah, man, there were some harsh times. Taps still breaks me up to this day, man. Can't listen to Taps. I can, but dude, man, that's just a jerker.
So, you're talking about taps. You know, did you spend some time ever having to call roll at a memorial service for soldiers that had passed?
I had to do that one time as a first sergeant in Germany. One of our soldiers was walking back from downtown. It wasn't a far walk, but he had to cross a 4-lane road to get back to the barracks at some point, and he crossed it and got hit by a car. Yeah, that's a rough time too, because you as the first sergeant, man, your voice can't crack, bro. Your voice can't crack. Not even when you know that dude's not going to answer. That voice cannot crack. It's just, that's the intestinal thing, man. You can crack later, man, but them soldiers can't see you crack. They can't hear you crack, and they damn sure can't see you down, because as their first sergeant, man, you set the standard for them, and they look to you to do that. So, yeah, man, those are unfortunate instances in our lives, but things that we get through because it's expected of us at those times, right? So
you are a very beloved leader. You know, there's folks that I'm sure that think much the same as I do. Tell me about your leadership philosophy a little bit. What guided you? Obviously, it's doing the right things and Army values and all that stuff. But tell me more though. What you think about when you think about your leadership style and stuff.
Well, I had and I still have a very sense of I'm not going to ask you to do something I myself would not do. So before I tell you to strap on that damn M60 and jump out of the airplane with it, or that Stinger missile jump pack and jump out of the airplane with it, you're going to see me do that at least once. You as a soldier will see me do what I'm going to tell you to do. If I'm telling you to qualify expert with that M60, damn it, you're going to see me fire M60, and you're going to see me qualify expert and show you how it's done. It's part of being that example in my thought process. So if I'm going to beat you up about not scoring a 300 on your PT test, you better best bet that I'm scoring a 300 on mine. If I can't make that standard, I'm not going to hold you to that standard. If you exceed my standard, good on you, man. Good on you. And that's kind of what always guided me whenever I'd have that little dilemma. And I didn't have many of those, because I pretty much knew every time I was going into a situation exactly how I'm going to react in this situation. Now, of course, there's those variables that those soldiers will throw at you, and you got to rethink on the fly. As soldiers got all kinds of excuses, man. We all did. We all did on why we screwed up. But at some point in my life, I finally decided there is no excuse for me doing that. I just did it. And once you get to that point, it's like, hey, Sergeant Major, I did it. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? Yeah, hell yeah, I did it. Would I do it again? Yeah, probably. Or yeah, maybe not quite the same way because you found out this time. Yeah. That's just kind of the way I looked at it. A soldier would do something stupid. I'd bless you out in a heartbeat, man. I'd jump on your back and pound you in the back of your shoulders and tell you how screwed up you were and what I really thought you were portraying at that point in time. You might feel about that big when I got done with you. But then last sentence is going to be, do you understand why I'm pissed at you right now? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, fine. Let's go. Let's get this shit done. And then I would go with them and talk them through it and help them through it. Make sure that they understood the standard. I mean, that's all you can do. Because you expect that soldier to act accordingly when you're not there. And if you don't expect that of them and don't teach them why it's important, then they're not going to do it. They're not going to have that intestinal fortitude when the shit gets deep to reach back and grab their buddy who's cowering behind them and snatch them up front and give them that shove and say, come on, man, we got to get this done. We need you to help us get this done. You can't just sit back and be a puddle of mud, man. So hey, that's the way I looked at it.
Tell me about being a Jumpmaster and going to Jumpmaster school. Was that tough for you? Was that something you picked up real easy?
Oh, nobody picks that up easy, man. Nobody. I don't care who you are. The Airborne Messiah didn't pick that up easy. Okay. Jumpmaster school. So I told you about the 4-5 college option they snatched away from me, right? First Sergeant Graves. That was the first Sergeant Graves. And So after I got back to the unit and got settled back in and everything, I'm like, all right, you want me to re-enlist now? Yep. Okay. I want to go to Jumpmaster school. Well, you're just a newly promoted E5. I don't care. I want to go to Jumpmaster school. I'm qualified. I've got my jumps. I've been here almost 3 years. It's time for me to go. Well, actually, I've been there, 3 years. I said, it's time for me to go to Jumpmaster school. I want to lead from the front. I want to be that Jumpmaster. I want to be that E5 Jumpmaster, man. And they were like, no, we got lieutenants. I said, that lieutenant can't go, man. He ain't going to get 36 months on status. It's against the regulation. It's against the, I just argued the stuff out of it. And finally said, okay, you got one chance, Airborne. You got one damn chance. You fail that, you ain't never going back while I'm here. Okay, first off, he got me a slot. Will, I'm going to tell you what, man. I had dreams. I had nightmares of nomenclature, of PWAC. I had 3 minutes and 30 seconds was all we had back in those days to do the JMPI of 3 jumpers. So we had a Hollywood, a semi-Hollywood, or semi-combat, and a combat guy. We had 3 minutes and 30 seconds from the time we said, open rip, core protect flat, and turned around and started going over that shoulder, right? Man. First time through, man. First time through. I got all the way through 3 minutes, 15 seconds. My knuckles were bloody. I was pissed the hell off. And Jumpmaster looked at me and said, Jumpmaster, good time. I said, come here. Oh, shit. But come here. I missed the diagonal backstrap being twisted. I missed the diagonal backstrap being twisted. And I said, son of a bitch, what do you want? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. And I go, so then your mind's going, did I fail? Did I fail? Is that a major? Oh, I can't remember if that's a major. Holy shit. Holy shit. Well, it turns out it was. So you get to do it one more time, Jumpmaster. Tonight we got PWAC. I said, okay, tomorrow you get retested. I said, so I go home that night, man. Nomenclatures I had cold. But you know how it is, man. In the heat of battle, that nomenclature is right there, but you can't bring it here. And I'm like, yeah. So the next morning, man, I'm just keyed up. I got first time going everything except JMPI. Man, I was so hot. So that night on PWAC, one of our lieutenants, big, strong guy, man. Don't remember his name, but this guy was big. Wasn't big chunky, but I mean, he was muscular. He was in the door before me that night. And I don't know how he did it, but back in those days we hung. You had to put your heels on the down locks and you had to arch out. Well, somehow he oversteps the platform and his feet slip off. And I'm watching him, and I watched the black hat. The black hat's pencil went from blue to red, and he started writing. This lieutenant hung on to the inside of the aircraft, and he fought. And he finally brought a heel back up on the platform and pushed himself back inside the airplane. Oh my God, man. This guy he's Superman, because ain't nobody going to do that, right? He gets back inside the aircraft, redid his practical work, hit the down locks, everything, got up there. The green light came on. He put his first jumper out. He went out, and behind him went his grade sheet. And I said, no way, man. No way. But the next morning, man, I had nightmares over JMPI all night that night, man. I was just, it was the most mentally taxing course in my military career. I mean, wow. But I got out there the next morning, man. Very first jumper, he had a major. I couldn't call it. I didn't know what it was. But the rule was, until you give that jumper the seal of approval, you keep on going. So I noted it. I saw it. I moved to the next jumper. Got through the next jumper. Got through the third jumper. Seal of approval, seal of approval. Got back to the first jumper. Took a breath. called off the deficiency, seal of approval, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Jumpmaster smiled at me and he says, congratulations, Jumpmaster. That's the way to do it. And I was like, because I knew, man, Graves was never going to let me go back to school. He was never going to let me go back to school. But yeah, man. And then I safetied every damn thing flying. If it was going and nobody else wanted it, you know, I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it. Hell, the Special Forces Reserve Unit there at Bragg used to call me on the weekends. They were doing a jump and needed jump masters because they didn't have jump masters of their own. Don't know if you remember him, Lieutenant Fredericks back in the day. His wife would call me, Melissa. She'd call me, and she said, "Hey, Randy, sorry, no, we need jump masters." So I go out and jump master for them on the weekends. I do fun jump masters out on Sicily. I just show up and help out the unit that was doing it. I mean, I loved it, man. And the more I did it, the more proficient I got at it. So, yeah. You remember the guy named Corbin? I thought I killed that guy, man. Oh, yep. I thought I killed him over in Charlie Battery. And somewhere there's a picture of me. I don't know where it's at, but there's a picture of me getting ready to deliver the blow to give him his blood wings, his senior wings. And I was already master rated. And so, you know how it lines up, right? First, your masters get to pop you, and then the seniors get to pop you. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Well, I was the only master out there that day. And Lear, Sean Lear was our first sergeant. And man, I am gonna tell you. Asked Corbin, I said, "You ready for this?" Yeah, man. Come on. All right. Here you go, Jump Master. Put those wings up there, drew back, popped him. Dude's face went immediately white. His eyes rolled back in his head. Bam! He was out. My eyes got like this. Oh my God, I killed the dude, man. They were only blood wings. I didn't hit him that damn hard. Dude is deathly afraid of needles. He didn't tell nobody. He passed the hell out on us, man. 3 of us snatched him up and took him in the hallway, loosened his boots, loosened his belt, and he snapped too, right? And I'm like, what the hell was that? He said, "Dude, I'm afraid of needles." I said, "Don't you think you might want to tell some people that?" "No, man, no. So he insisted to go back out there and get hit by everybody else too. So we stood somebody behind him to catch him when he passed out the next time. That dude's standing out there, man, raggedy looking. His boots were unbloused. His shoelaces were undone. And I'm just like, "Corbin, you silly bastard, man." But yeah.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
He's the same guy that took when we had the Germans in for a reciprocal unit exchange over in Charlie Battery. And we had to jump out of McCall because Pope was undergoing runway repair. And we're out there on McCall and we're JMPIing. And I was the primary on the bird. And I look around because I heard yelling. I'm going, "What the hell, man? We're JMPIing. Why are people yelling?" And I turn around and look. And Corbin's got this kid in full uniform standing in a dumpster. I go, "What the hell are you doing, Corbin?" He said, "Son of a bitch just told me he quits." I said, "Corbin, you can't stand him in a dumpster, man. You can't stand him in a dumpster like that." He said, he just refuses to jump. I said, "Okay, so he's a jump refusal." Set him right there and called the rigger to inspect his gear, make sure there's nothing wrong with his gear. Let's do this the right way. Get him out of the damn dumpster. But in the meantime, the Germans who were going to fly on the aircraft with us and take pictures, you know, because that's something they've never seen, are standing there taking pictures of this guy standing in the dumpster. I'm like, "Are you guys for real, man?"
International incident.
But yeah, I mean, oh my goodness, man. But those are the things, right? We'd go to jail for that shit today, man. Hey, you'd be relieved for cause, told to retire, or you were going to be court-martialed, man. That's just the nature of the beast today, man. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the personalities that were around. You you already talked about Velton Locklear. We've got King, Hilton.
Yeah.
Some of the first sergeants when you were around.
So we had I had Graves when I first got there. Graves wasn't really, I didn't have much interaction with him, right? So I didn't really look at him much as a leader. Maybe it's just because I didn't spend a lot of time around the first one, right? When that guy came my direction, I went the other way, right? That's what we did back in the day. Anybody above your platoon sergeant come your direction, you hauled ass the other direction, man. Don't get caught. But King, man, First Sergeant King was a good guy. First Sergeant Hilton, there were 2 First Sergeant Hiltons, by the way. But yeah, both of those guys. Nate Thomas, goodness gracious, man. Nate Thomas would never cuss. Never cuss, man. But he could always make you feel about that big if you were on the wrong side of him. Never got there, but I witnessed that a couple of times. Major Barrow, you remember Major Barrow? Or Skeletor. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Airborne. Okay, you ain't pointing at me, so you ain't talking to me. So let's see, you had those guys. You had a warrant officer. God dog it, what was his last name? First name was Gary. I can't remember his last name right now, but you know, Bullard, Dave Bullard, commo guy, man. Tire Sergeant Major. He's a great guy, man. I always hear him bitching about somebody not rolling up their wire right, or there's too many splices in that quarter-mile of wire. But God damn it, man, if your commo was down, you wanted that son of a gun right there with you, because if it was down, he could fix it. And that's what I remember about Dave, man. Dave, Mike Naylor, one of our motors guys. All those guys were so proficient in their job set, man. And then they were paratroopers on top of it. I mean, Paul Goss. Hey, I'm still in contact with Paulie, man. And that guy, he always carried, he was always a big guy, but he would always carry his load just as quick and as fast as you could carry yours, man. And he's just a beast. These are guys, man, that, you know, you had them for, if you were their leader for maybe, or under their tutelage for 6 months, a year, you just soaked things up from them, or you imparted so much on them so they'd be successful because they were that kind of a person. I mean, Matt Campbell, man, he was one of my running buddies back in the day. All these guys. And then you had platoon sergeants like Carlos Martinez and Moshner. I mean, all those guys. There was you, there was Webster, there was, God, man, all these names coming back in a flood now. Yeah, that is so
weird.
wild.
It's weird to think about that, right? Because there were just so many folks. You know, Godwin was around back in those days.
Yep. Godwin, and there was always an Oxendine. There was always an Oxendine. And you're like, where the hell is that name even coming from, right? But yeah, hey, man, those guys, and there was 2 of them. And both of them had their merits in their own way, right? So, you know, the Sergeant Lloyd, man, that guy taught me more about being a soldier and a good person, as well as being a good 24 Mike, because he was a good 24 Mike. He put me in a gun one day, but he was having trouble with, and he said, I don't know what's wrong with this one. I can't get it fixed. And I remembered a problem that they had put in one at school when I was going through AIT back in the day. And I tried everything, and I read the book, man. Will, you know me. If I couldn't fix it from my head, I'd open up the damn book and I'd troubleshoot again. But 90% of the time, after my 3rd year there, I already knew what the problem was. You know, I mean, you know that, man. We got the PIVATs. During the fielding, there was a problem that every time you hit the sight cage switch on the damn control panel, it blew a capacitor in the control panel. And the engineers that were there installing the shit couldn't figure it out. One day they went to lunch, and I stayed in the 78 motor pool where we were doing the changeover, and I opened up the control panel after control panel. And I watched as one of the capacitors fried. And I did some measurements. Those guys came back from lunch. I'd already gone to Radio Shack, and I'd bought the capacitor we needed to fix that problem. And I said, this is going to fix the problem. They go, how do you know? I said, just watch. And I'd already fixed one while they were out, right? Unauthorized repair, yes, but I wanted to prove my point. I had soldered it in, redid the control panel, put it back together, and that system passed every damn time, no problem. How did you find that? It's basic electricity, man. You find out what's frying and then figure out what's frying. It's not rated to hold the load you're putting against it. So go to the one that you're supposed to have in there. Oh, wow. You know, who knew, right? But you remember, man, that was 100 steps to get to an A1 on the PIVADs. And the book told you it would take you 60 minutes to get there because they expected you to read every step. And once we got proficient with it, a good operator, myself, we didn't need no damn book, man. 100 steps, bang, 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 10 minutes, got an A1, man. I mean, things that we did that we probably, if somebody was looking at us to do it properly, they'd say, yeah, you got to the end state, but you didn't do it step by step. Well, yeah, I did it step by step, but the steps are all right there, man. Once you train this to do that, it's over, you know? Yeah, but goodness, first sergeants, man. Then, of course, Sean Lear ended up with First Sergeant Locklear. So they moved me from Bravo Battery to Charlie Battery just as we were deploying to Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And I get over to Charlie Battery and we go down range, and Velton was a different guy. Okay. So we're on Champion, Maine doing 300 jumping jacks every flipping morning, right? We're doing high jumpers and everything. And the NCOs were just, there were some NCOs that were just pansy asses, I'll say. They didn't like Velton. They didn't like his leadership style. I didn't much care for it myself, but it was his style. He's your first sergeant. You're one of his non-commissioned officers. Your job is to either A, challenge him, or B, shut the hell up and color. And if he says the color of the day is red and stay within the damn lines, and then damn it, that's what you do, unless you got the huevos concheros to go and say, sorry, first sergeant, that's not it, man. That's not the way this is done. Challenging, right? He's not going to punch you in the throat. And if he did, punch him back. You know, that's just the way life is. Anyway, a bunch of them went to the IG on him at Champion, Maine. And there was a couple of them that tried to talk me into going and giving a statement. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go outside of this leadership chain until I have addressed it with my leadership here. I didn't have a problem with Locklear. My thing was, you can't break me because I'm too stupid to quit. That's all there is to it. Okay, you want to do 600 jumping jacks a day? Let's do them, man. Let's see if you quit first. And matter of fact, let's pick up the pace. Let's get to 1,000. Come on, man. But, you know, you challenge. And anyway, for some reason, Velton locked in on me and said, see, you come over here and you want to cause all kinds of problems. What are you talking about, First Sergeant? And he was doing it in front of the formation. And finally, at one point, it just pissed me off to the point where I'm standing in front of my platoon and he's just like this. And finally, I just barked back at him. And I said, look here, First Sergeant, if you think I did something, then goddamn it, tell me what you think I did. But unless you have proof and unless you know, then how about you shut up with your accusations? He didn't ask me another question, man. But Velton Locklear, I would serve with that guy again, man. I really would. A great guy, great leader. I was sorry to hear that his son passed or, you know, was killed in action. I'm sure that broke him up because that boy came in and ran PT with us all the damn time, man. All the damn time. You know, I was like, man, that kid runs faster than me. Son of a gun. But, you know, Velton was always a runner anyway. But yeah, I felt for him when I found out about his son getting shot and killed. But, you know, that happens. That happens when we go to war. It's not something that we all relish to do or see our comrades fall, but you know, we know that's one of those hazards of our chosen profession, right?
Right. Did
Yeah.
you have a situation where you felt you were in danger, you were being shot at, or you maybe had to pull the trigger or throw the grenade? You know, were you ever in a situation like that?
Yeah, not really. There was a couple of times during I don't know if you remember it, but during the mid '80s, man, I spent a lot of time in the Persian Gulf region. What was that called? Prime chance.
Yep, I was over
Prime
there.
prime chance you're going to become space dust. But yeah,
So tell
when
me
they
about
park,
that. Tell me about that.
so they parked that damn barge off of the Farsi Island when I first got, because I was on that first rotation. We stood up Windbrow 7 in the Herc, and I was on the Herc, and they parked us 3 miles off Farsi, and we could sit there at night and watch them little speedboats going. And we'd be up on the gun tub, and we'd watch the night sights, and the night sights weren't what they are now, but you could still see stuff, and of course we had the little birds that would go out and do what they needed to do when somebody called for help. But yeah, I think the most harrowing time I remember during that is when they called us the Farsi hook, because where they positioned the Herc in the morning, the Iraqis would fly over us going in to bomb the Iraqi or the Iranian coast. And then the Iranian, hey man, I'm telling you, visual aircraft recognition, that was a bomb, man. I knew that was an F-1 Mirage without a shadow of a doubt, coming back out chasing that Iraqi aircraft. So that was part of a weird time too, right? Because in this instance, we're helping the Iraqis get their oil out through Kuwait, and they're at a war with Iran over the Shed El Air waterway that we're in right between them, right? I think that's what it's called. But and you'd sit there, you'd have your overboard bag with you, right, up there on that gun tub, and you knew that was 70 feet to the water, and it was going to hurt like hell when you hit the water. But if that thing started dropping ordnance at you, you didn't want to be on the barge when it hit. You want to be in the water away from the barge when it hit. But yeah, man, those were the most harrowing times I can remember. I mean, there was that night during the Gulf War where we were sitting out there. I'll tell you a funny one, man, but we were out there at that airfield that looked like an abandoned airfield. And the Scuds came in that night. We were just outside Riyadh, and the Patriots fired on that sucker, man. And that was where they fired like 800 missiles or whatever at 2 coming in, right? Because of the software with the Patriot. And I was like, oh my God, man. And our alarms went off. Our gas alarms went off. And one of our commo guys, David Mello, was freaking out because he was on his cot, and the alarms went off. So everybody starts yelling, gas, 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 put your mask on. And he's just, I can't find it. He's all freaking out, right? And I'm like, damn. So I just yelled at him and pushed him on his cot, snatched up his mask and jammed it in his chest and said, put the goddamn thing on. And yeah, he finally got it on and calmed down. And then we go out there, right? The alarms went off, but why'd the alarms go off? Because the 256 kits came back negative, everything. So then what do you do, right? Now you got to find a poor damn soldier that you're going to send out there to unmasking procedures. And that was always fun, because they always went to headquarters platoon to find the least or the most expendable person. And you're like, okay, if you give me a commo guy, you're going to lose a commo guy. If you take the NBC guy, you're going to lose the only NBC guy you got. So, Mike Clark was pretty safe at that point in time, because he wasn't ever going to get that. Even though Locklear didn't like that guy worth a damn, man. Yeah, but that was the one time. And then there was the time we were out there near that, where they blew up that ammo dump that had the chemical munitions in it. And we were out there playing football in a combat zone, man. We're inside of a perimeter. We're playing football. We've taken our helmets off. We're in our t-shirts. We were still wearing BDUs because we didn't get our DCUs till we were on the way out. We want to go home looking good. So we're out there playing football, throwing the football back and forth. And that thing blew up, and we just kind of looked over at it because it was miles away, right? First sergeant Locklear comes driving up in his Humvee. And he gets out of his Humvee and he says, man, God damn it, man, I'm telling you, you need to put them helmets on. Because that thing just exploded over there. And I'm going to tell you what, and he reached in his truck and he pulled out this big hunk of twisted ass metal. I mean, it had to weigh like 30 pounds. And you could tell it was part of a shell that had blown up. And he said, man, if this thing hits you in the head without your helmet on, you're a goner. And I looked at him, and with a straight face, I just looked at him and said, with all due respect, First Sergeant, if I had my helmet on properly with that thing hitting me in the head, my head would be rolling around with my helmet over there somewhere. He said, oh, shut up, Osterhout. He got back in his Humvee and drove off. It's common, dude. I get what you're saying, but if something that huge hits me, I'm a goner any damn way. Yeah. Oh, fun times, man. But yeah, Sean Lear.
Yeah, Sean Lear. Tell me about that guy. He's great, First Sergeant, right?
That dude was a fisherman. That's all he was, man. He was a good First Sergeant. Don't get me wrong. He was great as a First Sergeant. He challenged us as platoon sergeants to do the right thing. He actually took it to heart that he was in charge of replacing himself. And he would mentor us. So, back in the day, when Sean was our First Sergeant, we had the Bear as our CSM. Love that guy to death, man. Sergeant Major Adams. Oh my God. That is a mentor and a half to the world. That guy, I learned so much from him, just talking to him, just listening to him. Watching him deal with soldiers, even when he came back from his reciprocal unit exchange over in England with his damn cane and his wristband, I thought that was funny, man. But hey, it's character, right? But Adams was the same guy, man. He's not going to tell you to do something he's not going to do. And I tell you two things you should never say when you're around Wilbur Adams and he's your sergeant major. You don't say, I'm the acting First Sergeant. You ain't acting shit. Or you ain't acting nothing, because he seldom cursed. He said, you either are the First Sergeant right now or you are not. You're not acting. Yes, Sergeant Major. And don't ever, no matter how bad you want to shorten the vernacular, do not ever call 3rd Battalion Airborne 4th Air Defense Artillery 3/4 ADA, because you ain't 3/4 of nothing.
It's interesting because like you were there at a time when 3/4 ADA was standard practice. That's just what we said. Yeah, we're 3/4 ADA. Yeah, but when he got there and he took over the battalion, somehow he was able to implement this program that you just described, where on the street we walked a step higher than everybody else, or at least we thought we did, because we were special somehow. And it was, I'm telling you, Sergeant Major Adams it was master. It was wonderful, right?
It was. I mean, and he was another one of those leaders, man. If he was going to ask you to do something or tell you to do something, you best bet he's either going to do it in front of you or he's already done it in front of you. Because he was never going to ask you to do something he himself would not do. Joe Stout, all of those guys, man. I mean, all the leaders that we had in the 82nd, 3rd of the 4th Air Defense Artillery, I can't remember a bad leader. I cannot remember a bad leader.
I totally agree.
I mean, we had those that drank a little more than others, but that didn't make them a bad leader. I mean, come on, man. Our organizational days were 1/4-ton trailers filled with beer and ice.
Were you in Charlie Battery? We did have a captain that got relieved at one point in the early 90s, right after he took over. Were you in Charlie Battery back then?
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I left I left there in 94, right after,
Yeah.
right
No,
after
this
the,
was.
right after the incident at Pope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Well,
was a,
no, it was after that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about, I was at Pope. I was a hat during that time, and I was there that day. It was probably the worst day of my life. That was
That was,
not good.
that was mayhem.
Yeah.
Um, I was supposed to be on Pope that day. That was supposed to be my last jump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so one of my buddies down in infantry land was Jumpmaster in that day. He survived, thank God. But um, I called him and said, dude, I got to replace you got to use a standby. He said, I don't have another standby. He says, you need to come down here and jump. I said, I can't. I got the movers coming to the house. I said, I got to be at home. He goes, well, get me a replacement. So I went back to the unit and I got a kid who needed a jump. And we were on our way back to Green Ramp and we were walking in the gate. And oh, wow, man. We had walked in the gate and we were moving towards the shoot up area. Behind the pack shed, right? Behind the marshalling shed. Because usually when we rigged on Green Ramp, we were right behind the flight line. I mean, we were right flipping there. We didn't rig behind. We never rigged behind. If we either rigged in the shed or we rigged out on the ramp. And I don't know what. It's kind of weird, man. Those are the bad days, right? Those are the bad memories. But we started going through the gate. As we got through the gate, I just sensed something was wrong. I don't know what it was. Then all of a sudden I see this huge ass fireball. I snatched him by his collar, turned him around and pushed him towards the gate and said, run your ass off, man. And we ran. And just as we got to the gate, I pulled him to the ground, tackled him, and got on top of him because I could feel the heat coming up on my neck. And I mean, lucky for us, the heat wave passed over, so there was no flame or nothing involved with that. Dude, I'm getting chills, man. And I was amazed that the heat wave went that far. I really was. And then we turned around after it passed us. We turned around and headed in to try to help, man. But there was just, you didn't know what to do, man. There were guys charred. We were throwing people on deuce and a halves. I mean, it was just utter chaos. I think the thing that maybe helped the most that day was Womack was doing a mass cal exercise out in their parking lot. If you remember that, because they had triage tents set up out in the parking lot of Womack Army Hospital already.
Wow, I didn't know
I mean,
that.
if you didn't know, it was a perfect. The elements were all there for a mass cal exercise, and unfortunately for the medical folks, the exercise turned into a real world event. Unfortunately for the soldiers that were hurt, maimed, and scarred for life from that thing, man. Yeah, that was, man, I smelled, because I lived over in Spring Lake at the time, and I drove around that side of Pope going home every night. Man, I smelled kerosene, JP4 for months or for weeks after that, man, because I was PCSing out, but still, I drove past that and all I could smell is JP4. And I drive past because they parked that C-130 down there at that end with that mangled up tail. And that joker sat there for a long time. And I was like, whoa. That's a grim reminder, man. A grim reminder. Now, same thing with that C-130 did the lapes out on Sicily that year during the Airborne week, right? During All-American week. That was, wow. Yeah, some shit happened when we were at Bragg, man.
Yeah, that lapse happened right before I got there. Matthews had pictures of it, had video of it. I remember one of the first nights I was there, he was showing it to me on his VHS. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was yeah.
So tell me about, you talked about how kind of you transitioned to become a Patriot guy. I did too. I ended up as a Patriot first on. I had a blast with a Patriot unit because we all fought together, right? It was our own team. I controlled everything that happened or didn't happen on the site, and it really went well. Tell me about your experience.
Well, so I'm out in ROTC land, and a guy named Bill Shaw was a branch manager at the time. Bill Shaw called me and said, "Hey, I got to move you, man. You're getting ready to pin on E8." I said, "I've only been here 2 years, and if you don't move me before the summer hits, you ain't gonna get me till October." He said, "Well, I gotta move you because you're getting ready to pin." I said, "Okay, I'm getting ready to pin. I got it. Where you want to go?" "I want to go home, man. Send me back to Bragg." "I can't send you to Bragg." I said, "Bill, come on, man. We're friends." He said, "No, I got too many E7 promotables sitting at Bragg right now. I got to move some of them too." He said, "You're not going back to Bragg. How about Korea?" I said, "I ain't going to Korea." I've never wanted to go to Korea. Don't know why. I heard nothing but great stories from all you guys that had been and come back. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Korea. It's just not my things to do list, right? Hey, that's not me. I said, "How about Hawaii?" He said, "No, ain't got no spaces in Hawaii." I said, "You're running out of choices, dude. Where are you going to send me?" I said, "I've never been overseas. And if I want to make sergeant major, something tells me I got to go overseas, but I'm not going to Korea. You won't send me to Hawaii. I'll go to Alaska." He goes, No, you're not going to Alaska. I'm stacked up there too." He says, "How about Germany?" I said, "Germany? Huh. Yeah, sure. I'll do Germany." So I get sent to Germany. My orders said I was going to a SHORAD battalion, and that the SHORAD battalion, I think, was in Vulcan at the time, right? And that's before they started closing stuff down real big time, or they were just getting ready to start closing things down because the wall had just come down. But so I get all set. They send me to the first sergeant's course en route down at Fort Bliss, Texas, at Sergeant Major's Academy. I did 5 weeks of that. And this is one thing that amazed me, right? So the Sergeant Major of the Army came down to talk to our class. And we were the first class ever. Now keep in mind, man, you're talking about people who are setting the standards for soldiers. My class at the first sergeant's course at Fort Bliss, Texas, was the very first one that didn't lose somebody for PT.
Oh, wow.
How the hell does that equate, man? How does that equate? If you can't pass PT, your ass don't belong in the first sergeant's course. We were the first class to have no failures. And I was like, wow, that says a lot. But anyway, so I get over to Germany, and as I land in Germany, they changed my orders on the fly. And I end up in Ansbach, Germany at 65288. And I raised hell, man. I don't know anything about Patriot. I'm way out of my league because I don't know the tactics. I don't know when these guys are going to, I know the tactics, but I don't know emplacement. I don't know table 8s. I don't know table 12s. I don't know the 4s. I don't know any of this stuff, right? It's all Greek now. Why I got to learn this stuff, man? SHORAD, I know. Hell, I started off as a Stinger gunner, became a maintainer not a Stinger gunner, a Vulcan gunner, then became maintainer for Vulcan. Then they did away with my Vulcan. I was an E7. They wouldn't put me in ordnance to be a maintainer on the Avenger. So I ended up being a Stinger platoon sergeant. And now I've picked up Stinger as an MOS. And you're going to send me to damn what? Huh? So I end up in a 652. And the sergeant major there at the time was Sergeant Major Mark C. Avery. I'll keep my mouth shut about that guy. Anyway, because he later became our branch sergeant major. Anyway, I'll forget him now, so I can push him out of the way. So I get there, and the sergeant major tells me, he says, "So this is what I want you to do. You're going to go into Alpha Battery, but I'm not going to put you down there right now. I want you to walk around for a couple of weeks and just observe what goes on." I said, "Okay, cool." He says, "But don't let them know where you're going." I said, "Sergeant Major, I won't. I'm not going to let anybody know what battery you're going to put me in. You might change your mind tomorrow. I don't know, right? Something might happen. You have to change your mind. I don't know." So I walked around, and I see these soldiers working their asses off, man. They're busting their ass. They're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, Will, but they're doing it to a mediocre standard in my book. When we got soldiers in the 82nd, they had 10 tasks to do. When they were proficient in those tasks, we'd add more tasks. We brought them along. We trained them. When they were having problems, we trained them. And we brought them along. What I saw in Patriot Land, this is my experience, is these kids were given 100 tasks without ever being explained what excellence was. So you end up with a bunch of tasks being done half-assed. So your maintenance is half is mediocre. Your training on your table 4s, table 8s is mediocre. They're not getting battery table 12s. So, you know, you got to break it down. Well, the battalion's XO, hyper little guy, man, major. He was in the motor pool every damn day on a creeper. And his creeper had his name on it. And he wore overalls that had all his patches embroidered on it. And he had his cap. And he'd walk to the motor pool carrying 10 and 20 manuals under his arm. And he'd crawl under every launcher, every Hammett, every Humvee, every vehicle we had. And he'd do all those checks. And I looked at him, I go, well, he's showing some command emphasis on maintenance. But what's he really doing? So he run into me in the quad one day and he says, hey, First Sergeant, what? And he talked just like that. He was just super hyper. His name was Kepler. And he was short, you know, kind of a shorter guy, very proficient dude, man, smart as a whip. He says, so what do you think about our battalion? What do you think? Huh? Sort of like, what was that cartoon, Foghorn Leghorn, right? Where that chick's running around. Hey, man. You know, that's what he put me in mind of, right? And I'm like, okay. I said, sir, I'm going to tell you something only from my experience. So I've trained cadets. And my cadets, from the time I stepped foot in that cadet battalion, we beat our host school and we won Brigade Ranger Challenge both years I was there as a cadre. Both years. We finished top in the brigade. All right. Our school is only 2,500 students. All right. So when we're competing against UC Boulder as our host school, when they have 29,000 students, wow, you know, and we're smoking their bags, man. I mean, we were competing with the Gonzagas and University of Washington Cadet Corps. And those were the guys that would beat us because they had a corps of cadets of like 600 people. You know, we had like 29. And only 10 of those was on the Ranger Challenge team. So, you know, you're like, okay. But I told him straight up, I said, you know, I see a lot of good soldiers. I see a lot of good emphasis being put into stuff, a lot of good work, but I see very little excellence. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, they're getting the job done, but they're only getting it done to a half standard. I said, half those vehicles are going to break down on a long road march because they're only done halfway. They're not done 100%. You know, they're not done to an excellent standard. That tire that's almost to the edge of being replaceable needs to be replaced. We don't wait until it blows out on the Autobahn. You know, it needs to be done before we roll down the Autobahn. And he said, huh. I said, so this is the way I see it. I need to take, with the battery I take, I'm going to take all those tasks away from them, and I'm going to give them 10 tasks to concentrate on. And then I'm going to add more tasks. And that's the way I'm going to approach it. He goes, okay. Interesting. He walked away. 20 minutes later, the sergeant major's calling me up to the battalion headquarters. And he said, First Sergeant, I told you to stay away from the units. I said, I wasn't in the units. Well, why did my major come back here and tell me you're aloof? And I looked at him, and with all sincerity in my heart, I looked at him and said, Sergeant Major, I guess I should be offended if I knew what the hell aloof meant. I have no clue what that means. He said, here's a dictionary, look it up. I looked it up in the dictionary. Oh, it says, I think I'm better than everybody. Interesting that he thinks that. Okay. All right. Whatever. What am I going to say to that, right? That's what he thinks. That's his opinion, right? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, they all stink. So, you know, I just kind of went off that way, right? So they put me in Alpha Battery. Alpha Battery was being run by a junior E7. The dude had just been promoted to E7, and he was doing a good job because the first sergeant who was in charge was one of the sergeant major's boys and would show up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, the day's pretty much over. He'd show up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, still hungover from the night before. And that was just his mode of operation. And these kids had no direction. So conversely, when he'd come in, he'd make them work till 8 o'clock at night. And that's just not right, right? So I took over and I pulled the platoon sergeant in and I said, look, this is the way things are going to go. I'm a single first sergeant. I got no place to be but here. So you'll see me in here at 4 o'clock in the morning. You'll see me in here at 10 o'clock at night. Because we've got no books on weapons qualification. We've got no height, weight. We've got no pregnancy counseling. We've got no training plan. We've got no training schedules. So we're going to get this right. So my battery commander at the time, before I took over, he said, hey, Top, let's get together and have dinner. Come on over to the house, right? So, okay, sir, I'll be there. So before I went over there, I took my notebook and I wrote down everything that first sergeant's responsibilities were, because the commander was doing these responsibilities. And I told him, you're going to cease to do this. You're going to cease to do this. You're going to cease to do this. You're going to stop doing this. And oh, by the way, if I see you in my barracks before 6:15 in the morning, you and I are going on a first sergeant run. And he just looked at me. Very first morning, man, he shows up at 6 o'clock. I'd already been there for 2 hours doing paperwork, trying to get things in order. And I said, what are you doing here? He said, well, it's 6 o'clock. I said, you got to go, man. You got to go. And him and I went on more first sergeant runs than he wanted to go on in the first couple of months he was there, or that I was there. And then, man, this is going long, man. Sorry. But he finally caught on, and he got a 1 block out of it, right? Because in the first 6 months, we went from being zeros to heroes. There was a lieutenant. So some of the guys from the 82nd ended up in the same battalion I was in. So Paul Fredericks ended up there. Brian, God damn it. Adams. Brian Adams ended up there. And Brian got Bravo battery. And yeah, long story short, we're running, Alpha battery's running, and my troops are sounding off and we're doing well. And he had his organization, his battery in front lane and rest on one of the roads that we run. So we ran around him. And as we're running around him, he's berating his battery and he yells at him, you hear that? That's what a unit sounds like. And I'm like, oh, you didn't just do that, man. You didn't just do that, right? So we went on, we did our PT, and I took our kids back home, put them in the showers and everything, and waited for Bravo battery to come back. And I pulled Adams off the side. I said, sir, you can't do that, man. You can't do that to your troops, because you have just told them that you have no faith in them. You have just broke their will at that point. Do not ever tell them that the other battery is better. Do not ever do that. And he said, but I want him to be like Alpha battery. I said, so does Delta, so does Echo, so does Fox. You got to work at it. You know, if you want to beat us, we'll take you on in competition. If we lose, we lose. That's okay by me, man. But so I did about a year of time in Alpha battery, because I took over Alpha battery in February of 97, and I relinquished Alpha battery October 98. We did Operation Southern Watch, and we had just come back from Southern Watch, and stuff was kicking off at the Turkey-Syrian border, and they ordered a Patriot unit into Northern Watch in Turkey. And they picked Alpha battery because we had the highest scores in the NATO tachyvals. We had the best commander, a guy named Brian Gibson. I don't know if you've ever run into Brian Gibson in your life, General Gibson now. He was my commander. And so you had 2 redheads. And I'll tell you a story about General Gibson here in a minute, but him and I, we ran a lot. The soldiers followed us a lot. And we were always out front, and we were always a command team. And he was probably the best battery commander, technically proficient battery commander I ever had. Never heard him yell. Never heard him get upset. If he did, well, once or twice, he pulled me in his office and closed the door, and he was frustrated with some stuff from the battalion. And we'd have our talk, and I'd take on the pissed off portion, and he would slack off and let me handle it through the NCO channels. And that's what I was there for, right? But anyway, they got ready to ship out to Operation Northern Watch, and Sergeant Major came down and pulled me out of Alpha battery. But keep in mind, I'm still the junior first sergeant in the battalion, and he stuck me in HHB because the HHB first sergeant had been selected as Sergeant Major. And I said, but you got these other 7 batteries here, man, or other 6 batteries. Why are you moving me? I'm the junior guy. That's for your senior sergeant, first sergeant. He goes, yeah, you're right, but you'll understand in about a month. Okay. whatever, I'll do what I'm told, man. It pissed me off. But anyway, I ended up in Alpha or in HHB, and I did like 4 years there because I was in Germany. I got selected to Sergeant Major School in 90, what was it, 99? Yep, I got selected the first time in 99, and I asked for a deferral, so they deferred me. And then they selected me again the next year. And the next year, I was like, yeah, no, I don't, there were some things going on, and I'm just like, right now, if I retire, I'm 39. And I had planned on doing 22 years. I had always planned on 22. Once I got to the career point, I said 22. But yeah, things happened. The Army said, no, you're going to the Sergeant Major's Academy. We were getting ready to deploy to Operation Southern Watch again. And I was the S3 Sergeant Major already. I've been S3 Sergeant Major for a year as an E8 and was doing the job and had trained the battalion and was supposed to take over the Kuwait part of the mission when we were down there. I asked to do it non-resident, and they denied. And then the day I was supposed to pick up my orders to go on and go to school, the lady in charge of Sergeant Major Schools had changed her husband's name to non-resident. Now, to put that into context, I'm an operational Sergeant Major in the operational environment getting ready for deployment. Her husband was an E8 at the Pentagon. Now, I'm going to tell you, man, E8s at the Pentagon, I got no respect for them. But see, I work at the Pentagon now, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for ASALT now. So I'm just like, yeah, no. So I did the right thing, man. At the time, I kind of looked back and said, go from E1 to E9 in 20 years is a hell of an accomplishment, especially in the air defense world where there's only 43 of us that are Sergeant Majors at the time. I don't know how many there are now, but it was one of those. I got over it in about a month and a half, and I was just like, well, whatever. But I had a blast. You're right. I had a blast in Patriot world. It was a different kind of world. Once we got it to where we wanted it to be as a battery, it was the best flip in time. Being the HHB first sergeant, not so much the best flip in time because you've always got sergeant majors that know more than you, and they're just an E9 on your manning roster. So you kind of have to tell them that every once in a while to make sure that they understand their place in the command chain. Hey, look, you're just a number on my manning roster, Sergeant Major. The battalion doesn't have a manning roster. The batteries do. Okay. But yeah, had a Sergeant Major, Mike Franklin was our command Sergeant Major. Balaam was our command Sergeant Major. Had a couple of good ones there. Yeah. Moran had a lot of great people to learn from. I guess the most humbling thing was when I retired out of 652 there in Ansbach, Germany. My retirement ceremony was on the quad at the battalion. And in the middle of the quad was the flagpole. The day I retired, they had the E8s of the battalion dressed blues to retire the colors and put them in a case for me. As I looked at those 8 first sergeants, every last one of them had been a platoon sergeant for me.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. All of these guys. And that was a humbling thing for me, because all these guys were great leaders in their own right, but they had all been platoon sergeants under me at some point in their life. And I was like, wow.
Tell me about some of the people that you're most proud of. I have what I consider to be some stars, that I worked with that maybe I helped mentor in some way. Or do you have some folks like that?
Wow, now you're asking me some hard questions, right? So, I mean, Bullard never really worked for me. He was the common sergeant in my platoon. I was his platoon sergeant. He never really worked for me. He worked with me. Is kind of the way I looked at him. Some of my stars, man. There was a young sergeant named Bailey that I don't know whatever happened to him, if he got out or whatever, but he was really, really good. And he really picked up on everything I shoved down his throat. And he always strived to do better than me. And that's all I can ask for of a mentee, right?
Wasn't he in Bravo Battery?
He was in Bravo Battery.
Yeah.
He was in Bravo Battery. Let me see. Well, Paul Goss, man, he became a star, and he worked for me as my generator mechanic for a long time. And man, Paulie went up through the ranks and became a Jumpmaster, and he worked for Casito for a while there in the division when he came back to division. Casito was a little spitfire, man. That dude was crazy. I was one of the guys in Patriot Land, man. Actually, Sergeant Miller. He was the young E7 that was running the battery pretty much when I first got there. When there were senior E7s over him that wouldn't step up, and Miller would step up. So I took him under my wing and mentored him, and he became a hell of a guy. There's a couple of other guys, man. Jeez, I can't remember their names though. That's the part that pisses me off, right? Because I can't. But yeah, these guys, man, I'm still in touch with Goss. Some guys that kind of fell through the cracks that could have done much better, that at least in my eyes. Pat Mahoney. He's a very smart guy. I still talk to him every once in a while. Yeah. Wow. I still run into Wilbur every once in a while here in the greater Northern Virginia area. Yeah. So, yeah. So, wow.
So tell me a little bit about, those that love you and pray for you at night. Who are the folks that maybe are your family, friends, and loved ones that you're going to want to maybe show this video to,
Yeah, my younger brother, my one sister, they're always in touch with me. They've always looked up to me for whatever reason that is. My mother, my stepchildren will absolutely get a kick out of this if they can understand it, because they're both German. But yeah, my first marriage ended a little weird, and the kids don't really have much to do with me anymore. And that's unfortunate for me, because and unfortunate for them too, because they're missing out on some stuff, and I'm missing out on a great deal of things. But it's the nature of divorce these days, and back then, in those days especially, when people don't understand what's going on, and they try to sell the other person down the river as being the villain, instead of saying, hey, it just didn't work out and this is the way it is, and try to co-parent or whatever. But whatever reason, they do what they do, right? But those are the people that this will be shared with and everything. And I just really, Greg O'Neill contacted me a couple weeks back because he had watched one of your things, and he says, hey man, you really need to do this. And I said, Greg, what the hell? But Greg, I ran into Greg. He was a captain in Third of the Fourth back in the day, so he knows a lot of the same folks. And he said, yeah, man, this guy Marshall. I said, you're talking about Marshall in the middle? He goes, yeah. Funny thing is, Joe Stout came to work for our organization when I was in the Rapid Equipping Force. He was one of our trainers, and he walked in, and I said, Joe. He goes, Randy, what the hell, man? But he was one of our contractors doing training. Who better to train troops on equipment, man? People like that. And Joey and I talked a lot back in those days. And, then of course, Greg knew Stout. So I said, how do you know Stout? And we got down to it. So yeah, I'm going to share this with Greg, because Greg's like, man, you got to do that, dude. I said, dude, man, get over it. Right. Stories like, the Bastard Brigade run with the Sheridans down by the,
man, that was crazy, right?
That was flipping crazy, man, but it was awesome, was it not? Was it not?
So that everybody that might be listening, we came back from a Bastard Brigade run, and there was tanks. One, I think it was one in each corner of the formation, and they had the music playing. And when we come up back in there, they had dancing girls with bikinis on that popped up out of the tank turrets.
Yes, sir.
Hatches, and they were dancing, like go-go dancing. And there was what 1,000 guys,
Well, not just guys, because remember they had integrated females in 782nd by that time, right? So they're out there too, and you're like, oh wow, this is going to end bad for this guy, man. But it didn't.
I never heard anything bad about it, but it's something I'll never ever forget, ever. But you got to remember, at that time we basically had a go-go bar in the unit area, right? The Red Beret Club was right there for many years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It certainly was. Red Beret Club right there. And if you really got bored, you went downtown to Rick's, got into trouble at Hay Street. Oh, God, man. Goodness gracious. The cadences we used to sing.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Oh,
or remember, who was it? Was Harry Miller our battery commander? And we were running down our dens towards Lakeland. Because we'd run the loop, right? We'd run up the Long Street, turn around, come back, and we'd run down to damn it, what was the name of that road?
All American.
Yeah. We'd run down that direction, and we'd turn around before we crossed the 4-lane 90% of the time, right? But as we were going down that hill by JFK Special Warfare Center, there was a leg unit running into division area. You didn't do that shit back then, man. You just didn't do that shit. And I remember the battery commander saying, "Open ranks." And oh my God, man. So the battery opened up and took up all both lanes of our dens, and we kept running, and we just dared that other unit to come through our ranks. Oh my God, man. I can't remember who the commander was, but he belted the other commander, knocked him on his ass, and snatched the guidon. Oh, damn. Oh, but we turned around and, formed back up, and we ran back to the battalion area. We still had the leg guidon with us, and we get back up to the battalion area, man. And like the next day there was a battalion formation, and it was put out in no uncertain terms. You don't do that shit, right? And I was like, wow. That was almost like the bus egress at Fort Bliss, Texas that year. Driving into El Paso on 54, man. And the bus driver, we were doing door checks out the door at 50 miles an hour. And they were dropping us off at the All Graders Club on Bliss. And man, that bus driver said, "Okay, man, we got people following us." So he did some shit with that bus that I've never known another bus driver to do. He was doing some serious E&E maneuvers with the bus. He said, "All right, guys, we're going to swing in past the clothing sales store," because the clothing sales store was like in the parking lot. He says, "As we go around that clothing sales store, I'm going to slow down to about 10 miles an hour. Y'all need to unass this bus so I can park it like it's been sitting there all night," right? Dude, we didn't even ask the questions. No questions asked, man. He turned that corner. That bus slowed way down, and we started putting people out the door, man. Go, 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 go. We formed up inside the All Graders Club, and the MPs caught up to the bus. The dude was sitting there, man, acting like he was asleep when the MPs walked up to him. And we watched him get questioned, and the MPs got back in their trucks and took off with their lights blazing, looking for another bus. Man. But of course, back in those days, right, our sergeant major, that was long before that. Our sergeant major used to preach to us that, and he was the one before Skeletor. But he would always preach to us that if you're going to get into a fight, you better make sure that when you're done with that fight, before you hit the pavement, there better be 9 people laying on their ass. Because a paratrooper takes out 9 for every 1 paratrooper that falls, because we were combat multipliers.
I've heard that before. That's funny.
That was the whole attitude, right? Right? We worked hard and we played harder. I mean, yeah, man. I used to have a kid named Trout. Remember?
I remember.
Remember Trout? We call him off for manifest call. His response back was not his first name and his last 4. He'd yell off hit what the Jumpmaster would call manifest and say, trout. And he'd sound off with one each wrinkle neck trouser trout. And you'd be like, oh my God, dude. You'd be like, damn, son. Yeah, Trout was a character. Yeah. Dude, man. Well, I got to tell you, man, working with you and Martinez and Godwin and Lucier and all of those guys back in the day, man, Nate Thomas, God damn it, Bill Shaw. Oh, man, what was his name?
C.J. Stevens was back in those days.
Yeah, there was Stevens. There was oh man,
there was Little Shaw, Skinny Shaw.
Yep. I mean, goodness gracious, fucking Greg Allen, man. Maggot. Yep, Paternostro. Yep. Oh, golly, man.
So many good people, such crazy times, you know, looking back on it, you know, we were a team like no other. And I'm sure there are lots of other units that were like that maybe, but there was something special about 3rd of the 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment from top to bottom, something super special that caused us to be very unified.
We always measured ourselves against the infantry, and no matter what it was. So All-American Week, right? Military stakes competition where you had to ruck, you had to do DNC with your ruck on, you had to ruck, stop at a range, shoot the best you could shoot within 10 minutes, ruck back up and finish the 12-miler. I mean, things like that, you know, that we consistently placed high because we wanted to show those infantrymen they weren't the only warriors in that division, right?
That's right.
Yeah, they were the tip of the spear, and we all fell in along the shaft some damn where. But you know what? They couldn't do their job without us doing ours. I mean, I remember going out and doing EIB training with them all the time just so I could stay on top of my game and encourage my soldiers to do the same shit so that they stayed on top of their game. When we do ruck marches with our slice, you know, with our infantry unit, that air defenders, man, no, you better not fall the hell out. You know, I remember on one, I was standing there and I had packed out with the infantry packing list and our battalion packing list. So my ruck weighed up, it was over 100 pounds. And we were doing, I think it weighed in about like 120 by the time it was all said and done. Cause you know, you had I was carrying the trainer. Well, not the tracking head trainer, but you know, the Stinger trainer had a grip stock. Had the interrogator, had the BCUs, had the radios, had batteries for the radios, had the Vincents, had all that shit, right? And we're humping, man. And I was standing right there, and there was this poor infantry kid, man. He was, oh God, I'm hurting, and he was hauling the base plate. And it wasn't a huge base plate, but it was a base plate, right? And we stopped for, you know, they during those organized marches like that, we do the stop, and we drink water, change socks and all that good stuff, get back on the road humping. And he was just going on and on. I said, you know what, man, I'm an air defender. I'll switch rucks with you. And he said, oh, you do that for me, son? I said, yeah, man, I'll carry your load for a while. I said, come on, man. And I said, all right, break time's over, man. Let's get you in this ruck. So I picked my ruck up off the ground so he didn't pick the weight up, right? And I just snatched that thing up off the ground and I held it. I busted my gut doing it. But I held that joker up and let him slip his arms in, right? So tighten them things down, right? Yeah. All right, you got the waist strap done? Yep. You all cinched up? Yep. Okay, I'm going to let go. All right, I let go. That kid fell on his back, man. He goes, son of a... I said, what's wrong, man? He said, hey, sorry, I can't help this. I'll take mine. I said, then stop your goddamn crying.
Amen. Stop your crying.
I picked my ruck up, put it on, I said, come on, son, let's go. And he didn't... I tell you what, he didn't lose track with me the whole rest of the way. He was like, that old son of a bitch. Because I was old by that time, right? 26 years old. I'm old to him.
Right.
Yeah, man. Dude, man, we put our bodies through some shit back then. But that was the thing, right? Division review. How many years were we the best marching unit? I mean, 3rd of the 4th got the award. how many years in a row? Because guys like Teddy Knight up front, man. What is a better depiction of a paratrooper than Teddy I?
Amen.
I mean, God, dog, man, I need to get down the road here. He only lives maybe 30 minutes from me. And I haven't seen him, man. We've talked about it, but you know, that's the thing. We never make the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I need to do that, man. I need to do that. Call him on the phone. You know what he's doing now, right?
Yeah, he's a sheriff's deputy.
Yeah, shit, right? And like I said, man, what a stellar example of the guys we served with.
Yeah. He's the best looking sheriff's deputy I've ever seen, man. You see him in his uniform, dude, he looks sharp, man.
He looks strack, man. That's what Teddy is, strack. That's old Teddy I, man.
There was something about the people that we were around, and you just called off name after name after name of legend, of just legends. And you know, we're so blessed. We were so blessed during that time. You know, I think of a lot of my other Army units that I was a part of, and I was in some of them for a while. The legends came out of Fort Bragg. The legends came out of 3rd of the 4th. Now, there were some good ones.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got to tell you, man, when I got to Patriot Land, I put up a couple of those cartoons that show, like, you know, the Stinger gunner standing there with a limp tube, you know, because it's all like this and stuff. And then I had a couple of things on my wall that I might be able to unplug. Yep. So on my wall in my first sergeant's office, and it wasn't a big office, was this and this. Now, this one is from Cold Steel, and they're both from Cold Steel, man. So this is from the from the Men of Cold Steel, and yeah, that's from the senior NCOs and officers of Cold Steel. I got those from there, and I had this one. You know, you probably remember. Hang on, man. You probably remember.
Oh yeah, I love
those
that.
Being around all the time. I had that on my desk, and then after I served with Brian Gibson, while him and his soldiers were down in Turkey for Operation Northern Watch, right when they got deployed, and I ended up in HHB, he sent Cheryl, his wife, over to the unit one day. And I had a guidon made for him before we went down to Southern Watch. Paid for it myself, right? Them jokers took my desert guidon and they all signed it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this guy named right here, right? That's Bill Cohen. You know, remember the old Secretary of the Army?
Yeah,
Bill Cohen? He visited them and they had him sign it for him. And Brian Gibson took that and sent it back to Cheryl. She framed it and dropped it in my office one day, and there's a really nice note that goes with it. But recently, after they closed the ref, you know, I've done all kinds of things in my civilian career, man. So I'm almost ready to retire again. So these guys, I retired in Germany, started working for the garrison in Ansbach, in and out processing, you know, started at the lowest level, GS7 type thing. But it got my feet back in the door of being around soldiers. So in processing soldiers and their families there and all of that stuff, and then moved up to operations for the garrison and then supervisory operations. And after 7 years, they said, you got to go back to the States, brother. So I hauled back to the States, came to the ref, worked at the ref from 2008 till 2018. Then I got selected to be the Public Health Command XO for Public Health Command of Europe. So I ended up back in Germany for about 18 months. Came back to the ref folded up. So I ended up working for PEO Soldier, PM IVAS. I don't know if you know what that IVAS system is, but it's augmented individual, or it's individual visual augmentation system. Will, I'm going to tell you what, man, you put that thing on your face, I about got nauseous. It has so much information coming up in the HUD display that today's soldier is just like Oh my word, man. It's like looking through the lens of RoboCop. Tells you your grid coordinates, depending on what selection you have. It's got night vision built into it. It's got IR built into it. GPS built into the heads up display. So the soldiers, if the weapon is sighted because there's a sight that goes on the weapon, the soldier doesn't even have to shoulder the weapon to fire it, really. He can put the weapon around a corner and see what's out there in his eyes with only putting his arms out there, right? He could pick off a target, and if the sight's right, pull the trigger, done. And I'm just like amazed at some of this stuff. But then, so now I'm working up at the Pentagon at the Assistant Secretary of the Army's Office for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. And I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff there, man. But so I get a phone call one day from a lieutenant telling me, hey, I need to get 30 minutes of your time for the general to talk to you. I said, okay. Number one, I'm a civilian. Number two, a general don't have to call and make an appointment with me. And I go, so yeah, when you coming up and what time, right? So I've got this time and this time available because I have meetings. And he goes, okay, we'll take this time. I said, okay. And who's the general? He says, General Gibson. And I said, General Gibson? Is this General Brian Gibson? He said, yeah. I said, oh shit. I said, that general never has to make an appointment to see me, right? He walked in and my new boss looked at him and said, hey, sir. And because they had worked together in General Gibson's in charge of the cross-functional team for missiles in space out of Army Futures Command. And my Colonel Lozano used to work with him on the PM side, right? So project management side. And General Gibson walks in and Colonel Lozano steps out of his office, starts talking to him, and he goes, I'm not here to see you, Frank. I'm here to see Randy. He looked at me and I said, sir, what the hell, man? Shook hands, big old hug, and all this shit. And he started talking trash. And he's like, yeah. Yeah, I was just like, Brian Gibson is the most down-to-earth dude, best battery commander, hands down, I ever had, especially as a first sergeant. I mean, I had a couple of good ones, man. I mean, I had a guy named Dave Vasquez who was a little older than other captains, but he was a hard charger too, man. Busted his back up jumping. But yeah, he was a good guy. But Brian Gibson, man, he talked to me. He calls me on the phone every once in a while. Hey, Top, what's up? How you doing? It is what it is. But yeah,
great, right?
It's awesome, man, because then he starts telling stories and my colonel's sitting there going, what the hell, man? And he found out a few things that day too, but whatever, man. I don't care, man. What's up? What are you gonna do? Tell me I gotta quit? Okay, I'll retire tomorrow, no problem. But yeah.
So as we start to, think about closing this out, one of the things that I've really enjoyed having folks do is like call their unit to attention. Like, could you imagine calling your old, battery to attention and then signing out kind of thing? I think that's pretty cool. I would love it if you'd do that for me,
Oh, okay, I can do that. I'm certain. Let me see if I can get the command voice right again.
Yeah, right. Isn't it kind of weird? Talking about getting goosebumps earlier. When you start calling stuff to attention, I mean, it gets the adrenaline pumping a little bit.
Dude, do you realize that this year I've been retired for 20 damn years?
Wow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the 30th of this month, I'll be actually I went on the retirement rolls 1 August. So, because I had to retire before they seated the seat in the school.
So, did you retire as a sergeant major or a first sergeant?
First sergeant. I'm first sergeant retired.
Okay.
Yeah. I was an S3 sergeant major working that position when I retired, but yeah.
Right.
Damn, Will, this went long, dude.
I love it. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. Look, I am so proud and thankful that guys like you are willing to talk to me and let's capture some of these stories. When Maggot got sick, and I had all this equipment where I could record, I was like, well, why don't I just call him and do it? And then it just kind of has morphed from there. And I'm going to tell you, it's just really, really fun. It's just really, really fun for me to get to talk to you and to know that we're recording it and that your family's going to see this one day and it'll be something, because I don't have anything of my grandfather. I don't have any video really of my granddad or any of my uncles and stuff like that, but we're creating something, and thank you for doing that. Thanks for taking part of your Saturday and hanging out with me.
Shit, before I came to talk to you, man, I got up this morning, went on a 150-mile bike ride, my motorcycle ride.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Heck yeah.
So I picked up a couple of hobbies because as I get older and I'm finding out that I'm going to retire, man, I'm not that guy who can sit on my butt and do nothing, right? So I've taken up some crafting, woodworking type stuff, and I'm morphing that a little bit for me. But building little kids' toys and stuff like that out of wood, the old school way. And then I ride my motorcycle, and then of course my biggest thing that I really, really love to do is I brew my own beer. So.
Really? So, but Burnley and I don't know if you remember Sergeant Burnley. He's the Fort Sill Command Sergeant Major right now. But he and we used to brew beer together back at Bliss in the early 2000s. So tell me all the stuff you got. What's your favorite to brew?
Well, my standard brew has been an American Pale Ale because it's the one I get to come out very, very consistent, right? So, but I'm got one in the fermenter. I'm going to put one of my kegs tonight. That's got to sit for about 6 weeks before I can tap it because it's a German Pils beer, and it's supposed to have a really crisp finish. And yeah, we'll see how this one comes out, man. But one of the guys that I work with, one of the Fullbirds, he's got a lot of friends in the brewery business down in the Shenandoah Mountain area. There's a lot of microbreweries out there along one specific road, and he's real close friends with the guys from Devil's Backbone that have a base camp brewery out there, right? The owner got sick and sold before he passed away to Anheuser-Busch, but they still kept the recipes, right? So I gave him a bottle of my beer the other day, and he come back and he says, "Hey, I might want to share this taste. I want to give it, if you don't mind. Maybe I'll talk to him and I'll get a taste of one of your beers and take it to him, let him taste it. That's probably one of the finest beers I've drunk in a very long time, to include the mass-produced stuff that they do." And I said, "Well, I just brew what I brew, man. And it changes a little bit different each time because the hops have different alpha acids, and I use the same yeast because I harvest my yeast, but all that good stuff." Yeah. Somebody telling you got to get off here, right?
Yeah, we've run a little over, and it's been neat. Bella stick her head in. It's like, you've got company, and I'm like, okay, that's great. We'll figure it out. Hey,
I'm sorry, man.
No, please don't be sorry. This is a blast. I am having a blast. So let's close this out. Let's get that. What if we did? Sound it off with Cold Steel. Prepare to move forward. What about that?
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty good, man. Holy crap! Cold Steel, prepared to move forward. Right. Well, man, this has been great, dude. It's always nice talking to you. It was always nice talking to you when we were soldiers together back in the Deuce, man. But dude, I got to tell you, I've watched a couple of your podcasts, and I'm going, holy crap, man! I remember that stuff. Remember that stuff, man. But yeah, there's a whole lot more out there. A whole lot more.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. So let's see. Let's see. I'll call us to attention, and why don't we sound off with Cold Steel, prepare to move forward, and then if you will, let's not do that. No, let's not do that. Yeah, let's do that. You ready? I don't even know what I'm doing. All right, so we're gonna say, yeah, I'll call us to attention. Just sound off with Cold Steel, prepare to move forward. Ready? Soldiers. Right. Attention!
Cold Steel, prepare to move forward.
That's so funny. That's so funny. All right, now you call your battery to attention, and then salute and sign out.
Roger that. All right, man. Hey, this has been great, dude. Don't be a stranger, right?
I love it.
All right. Battery, attention. First Sergeant Retired Osterhout signing out.
Oh, I love it. Hey, You know, doggone it. First sergeant. I just have trouble calling you first sergeant. I want to call you sergeant major. That's just what I want to call you, sergeant major. And but Randy Osterhout, dude, you were one of my very first friends I considered in the Army. Those nights we spent around the Vulcan trying to figure stuff out. You probably don't remember it for nothing, but I cherished every minute of it, dude.
You got to be kidding me, man, because you were one of the guys that wanted to learn about that system, right? How many twists in the safety wire per square inch?
Oh, dude, I don't remember, but I know you taught me.
6 to 8, man. 6 to 8.
I love it.
Anything over 8's too tight. It'll break.
All right, man.
All right,
love you. Bye, Sergeant Major. Bye, Jumpmaster.
Take care, man. Love you to death, bro. Bye.